Africa 2022. Welcome to yet another morning show here on KUTV Rise Today, live from our studios at KUTV. We're glad that you're joining us, and if you're consistently someone who watches KUTV Rise Today, we'd love to know that and give you a shout out, including where exactly you are watching from. But welcome to another exciting morning of Tuesday. In fact, the third Tuesday since we Kenyans went to take part in the polls of the general elections of 2022. 3 weeks in, and yet to decide who exactly, it is yet to be clear who exactly will be the president due to what is currently happening over at the Supreme Court. Decisions. That's what we are going to focus on today. Decisions in business and decisions in politics. In 2017, when Rosalind Akombe, one of the IEBC commissioners, that is the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission of Kenya, she resigned from her position in 2017, claiming at that time that her boss then, which is Mr. Wafula Chebukati, the chairman of the IEBC, claiming that the chairman was under siege, or as one of the former IGs of police will call it, is under siege. 2022, Mr. Wafula Chebukati is experiencing the same situation that he did in 2017. Two elections which have been disputed twice, at which Mr. Wafula Chebukati is the chairman of the IEBC. Some will choose to call him a hero, as Deputy President William Ruto did say in his victory speech over when he was declared as the president-elect for the presidential elections of this year. Some will choose to call Mr. Wafula Chebukati a villain, since he has conducted two disputed elections, which according to him as well are some of the most expensive elections in the world and the most expensive in Africa. 44 billion Kenyan shillings is at least the amount of money that is being printed here on the Business Daily, showing what Kenyans spent towards the elections of 2022. And now we are at a situation where the Supreme Court has received 9 petitions towards the presidential elections of 2022, and 8 of which are against the declaration of Deputy President William Ruto as the president-elect, or as the winner of that presidential race. And Raila, in his, because Raila Odinga, of course, being one of those who filed their petition at the Supreme Court, there are others, 7 others, including activist Okiya, who is also now elected senator over in Western Kenya. Some of the others who have filed their petition include David Ngari, John Kamau, Khalif Khalifa, Moses Kuria, who is filing a petition against Raila Odinga, saying that the chaos that was witnessed at the Bomas during the declaration of the president-elect is directly a responsibility of Raila Odinga, and therefore his petition against the presidential elections should not stand. So that is also at the Supreme Court. Okiya Omtata has filed his petition. Ruben Kigame, who was also formerly a presidential candidate or hopeful to become a presidential candidate, has also filed his petition. The Youth Advocacy Africa and Julia Shege. This is what the Supreme Court is taking a look at as we try and decide whether there was free and fair and credible elections which were held in the past 3 weeks. And now in the presidential election petition timeline, what we are looking at is quite a long period in which Kenya will be embroiled in matters of the Supreme Court's decision-making process in how exactly did IEBC chairman Wafula Chebukati conduct these elections. Just like in 2017, there are claims that there was rigging, the system was penetrated by hackers, and some forms were swapped. That is the forms 34As, or as is according to Raila Odinga's petition. Now here, the IEBC held elections in August 9th, as we are all aware. In August 15th, IEBC declared Mr. William Ruto as the president-elect. August 16th, we had Mr. Raila Odinga reject the results. August 22nd is when petitions, that is yesterday, were filed over at the Supreme Court. Now we have 8 days from yesterday until when the pre-trial conference will take place in the August 30th, and then court hearing, which will determine petitions and whether or not what kind of decision is going to be taken next, will be a period of 14 days before the Supreme Court of Kenya decides to go either way, which is whether they nullify the elections or they uphold these elections. And therefore, at that point, if they nullify the elections, we have 60 days, within 60 days in which IEBC will hold the fresh presidential elections. If they uphold these elections, we have 7 days in which the president-elect, the current president-elect, that is William Ruto, is declared as, or is sworn in as president, and that will be after that period of 7 days after the decision of the Supreme Court. So we have at the very least, if I do my quick math here, 14 plus 8, 22 plus 7, we have at least 29 days until the first ever swearing in is possible. If not, we have another 60 days more in which Kenyans will have to go back to the poll to determine who is their president for the coming 5 years. So that is the situation that we're having a look at. And at the backdrop of all that information and the stage that is being set at the Supreme Court, whoever takes over from office still has to come in and deal and steer a pandemic-battered economy, which is now coupled with high cost of fuel, high cost of prices, the worst drought in 4 decades, and a soaring public debt. How exactly will they turn around this situation in which inflation is squeezing every household's budget? In fact, inflation is now at a current 61-month high at 8.7%, not witnessed before in Kenya. And this is in the wake, of course, of COVID-19 ravaging revenues. There's jump in fuel prices, and also a lot of other activities which are happening around the debt situation. The International Monetary Fund requires that Kenya scraps some of the subsidies, including the fuel subsidies, which is the fuel subsidy, which is currently keeping keeping the price of fuels in Kenya at a price of 159 per liter. If I am correct in terms of the numbers at the moment, 159 Kenyan shillings per liter of petrol, and which that should be at 217 Kenyan shillings, which if the fuel subsidy was not in place. So if IMF does away with this, what exactly will the next government do to cushion Kenyans from the harsh effects of the economy, and also to temper the anger that Kenyans will definitely show towards the next government which takes over such kind of situation? Also, the next president still has to decide what to do with those subsidies, whether to scrap them, including the maize subsidy, which was just dropped last week on Thursday. And now Kenyans are facing a situation where maize flour is becoming elusive and consumers are facing a shortage, and all the fuels, all the shelves, of course, are now empty because of that situation of maize flour crisis, the maize flour crisis, which is hitting the country. That and much more is happening in the world of politics and business, and also the details are spread in the dailies this morning, the Business Daily, the Daily Nation, the Standard. I'll be trying to have a look at least the most important ones, because we have a lot that we can have a look at. However, I'll be joined by Vincent Odundo later on, who has been the host here before on KUTV Rise Today, to be specific, on Biashara Tuesday. The old is meeting the new here on the newspaper review section, so you don't want to miss out on that. Those details will be coming to you. Grab yourself a piece of the dailies this morning, and then join us in with your commentary on Facebook, KUTV Kenya Live, where I'll be streaming, also on the SMS/WhatsApp numbers that are somewhere here on the screen. On social media, you can interact with us as well, at KUTV Kenya, at Richard_OKENYE. Later on during the show, remember this is a 3-hour show, and we'll be making sure that we're entertaining you, informing you, and also educating you in matters of business and politics as well. I'll be sitting down with an entrepreneur, a young entrepreneur who's got into the business of jewelry, but with an angle which he calls Afro-Bohemian. So Afro-Bohemian is apparently those individuals who are not afraid of showing their individuality, and she's doing this through her jewelry business. How exactly does that promote Afro-Bohemianism, and also how does she make money? What kind of business is she doing at the moment, and what can you learn from the steps that she has been taking towards growing her business? Also, we're speaking to an author today, Cynthia Abdallah, who's joining us on Zoom at around 8 in the morning to tell us some of the things that she's been doing in the world of literature, some of the books that she's published, the works that she's been involved in, and how we can promote this country into a reading nation. Remember, you can't just do business without getting knowledge here and there. What kind of books should you be reading? If you're someone who's venturing into business or in a startup, what kind of literature should you be always keeping close to you as you go on with your journey of entrepreneurship? Remember, hashtag to use is the hashtag Biashara Tuesday. You can also tag me on my personal handle at Richard_OKENYE as we go on with matters of Biashara Tuesday. I'll be your host all the way to 10 in the morning. Let's have an amazing show, And now we kick it off. All right, let's have a look at the roads first before we go on with any more of business. Or if you're going out for work, going out for business, tell us how the roads are looking like. We're also having a look at MA3 routes, which is always informing us on time traffic updates around the city and also all over the country. So if you're elsewhere, do tweet us out at KUTV Kenya and also tag at Richard_Kenya. I'll be able to see how the roads are looking like. And also tell us the alternative routes that people should be using this morning. Nairobi, the weather conditions are going to be at, currently, I'm seeing here on my phone, 13 degrees Celsius is what the temperatures are like this morning. It's going to be mostly cloudy throughout the day, lows of 12 degrees, so we are not at the lows yet, so expect a quite cold day, but also highs of 23 degrees Celsius. So beware if you're going out, keep warm, and also do inform us of any other changes in the weather conditions of wherever you will be at. A very good morning to everyone above ground. We give thanks to God for being above ground. It is a blessing as we head on to our business. That is what I'm receiving here from Kunguru, saying that pedestrians walk and drive safely. Remember, arrive alive, yeah? Arrive alive. I'd love you to try and say that at home out loud. Arrive alive. Traveled from Matu to Nairobi by Kinathi Sacco Matatu. Free fare was at 200 Kenyan shillings. Kufika thika wakasema hawaendi Nairobi. I had given the conductor 1,000. He has refused with a change na akapotea. Bad experience. Avoid them. So that is Kinathi Sacco. He's actually put a photo of the number plates of that vehicle. So if you're someone who can follow it up, make sure you do. But someone else here, Benja Eriko anasema, Kinato iko sawa, but iko zingine huko Thika ndio shida. Iko zingine Thika mwisho. Oh, kuna za Thika mwisho. So apparently maybe you had the wrong matatu coming in. But tafuta change yako, bro. Yeah, so ensure that ukiingia you get your change as early as possible. I saw this at Kawangware. I was shocked. Garbage eating the road. So it's getting messy over at Kawangware. An image I'm seeing here is a pile of garbage, of course, encroaching towards the road, and half the road is immersed in garbage. So I don't know, Nairobi City Council to attend to that if they can get this information. Moving slowly from Muthaiga Primary towards Pangani Tunnel on the highway at 6:44 a.m. Having a blessed Tuesday. This is Fred Ngosia updating us on the traffic situation on Thika Road. If you're heading that way, that underpass there after Muthaiga is unpassable, or the traffic is moving really slow. Trees are critical urban infrastructure that add beauty and aesthetics to the city. Please increase the tree canopy and achieve tree equity in Nairobi. That is a call out from one of the residents to Sakaja Johnson, who just recently got elected as the governor of Nairobi County. Kampala City has installed bicycle racks along the first real NMT pilot corridor in Kampala. Is Nairobi joining? Yeah? Will Nairobi join? Kampala has now the bicycle racks where you can cycle to town and then just leave your bike there, lock it up, go with your business, come back. The bicycle racks are safe and you can pick it up later. Can Nairobi do that? Ama utakuja upate tu ni padlock imefungwa hapo, baiskeli haiko. Kenya's lakeside city of Kisumu is emerging as a top contender for the most pedestrian friendly and the cleanest city in Kenya. Sakaja Johnson, can Nairobi adopt this? So it looks like a lot of Nairobi residents are now coming out to tag Sakaja Johnson in what they would love the roads to look like. So pedestrian friendly and also bicycle friendly, so that we can have a cycling nation, a walking nation, and also keep our streets safe. Hii barabara Enterprise Road from Daraja to Hillocks Club, less than a kilometer. How long does it take to construct? Surely wanatengeneza ni kama cow shade. Mwabalij also complaining there on Enterprise Road. Those are the updates I'm receiving here from the few roads. Thika Road, Mombasa Road is there. I'm seeing traffic, so kama unaweza kutumia expressway heading out to work, make sure you do that. Kawangware kumeshikana, where there's also that situation of garbage on the road. So relevant authorities attend to that. Keep giving us information on what's happening on the roads. I'll be looking at that as I go on with the show, and also have a look at what has happened in your world. We have to be informed of the happenings, fresh happenings of the past 24 hours before we go on with matters of business. So the news updates are coming to you right about now. Don't go too far, just a short break, and then we'll be right back on Biashara Tuesday. All right, I'm the first one on the show. Do not forget to mention that that's Coriel Clinton, who's tuning in and saying that no one else has beaten him to Biashara Tuesday. Give us your comments. Remember to tell us where you're watching from, how you think the show is going, and also what you'd love to see as we continue to discuss matters of business. Hashtag Biashara Tuesday is how we are doing it over on social media. But before we continue with matters of business, let's start with politics. The Azimio la Umoja camp yesterday filed a petition at the Supreme Court seeking to nullify presidential results of the 2022 general elections, where Dr. William Ruto was declared the winner. The team, led by the party leader Raila Odinga, has exuded confidence that the judiciary shall deliver a verdict of justice to them.
In what seems to be Raila Odinga's only hope after 5 attempts to contest in the presidential elections, Odinga has once again resorted to seek justice from the legal chambers of the Apex Court. This comes at exactly 7 days after the declaration of the presidential results by the chairman of the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission, Wafula Chebukati, as stipulated in the Constitution. Other parties who have also filed their petition the Apex Court include Anthony Manyara through his Youth Advocacy Africa, John Joroge Kamau and Kalev Khalifa, among others.
The action we have taken is perfectly in line with the stipulations of our Constitution on resolving electoral disputes. It affirms our deep belief in constitutionalism, the rule of law, and a peaceful resolution of disputes, including high-stakes ones, like the presidential election.
Odinga, accompanied by leaders allied to the camp, together with a battery of lawyers, stormed the Supreme Court to file a petition to challenge the victory handed to the Deputy President Dr. William Ruto on the 15th of August. The team arrived with 39 boxes of exhibit in a lorry. The high-profile Azimio lawyers, including Daniel Manzo, James Orengo, claim they have enough evidence in the petition to prove misconduct by the Electoral Commission. The case will be heard by the 7 judgment consisting of the Chief Justice Martha Koome, Justices Philomena Mwilu, Dr. Smoky Nonjala, Mohamed Kadari Ibrahim, Njoki Susanna Ndungu, Isaac Lenaola and William Ouko.
Tunatoa shukrani kwa Wakenya kwa kusimama imara na vilevile kuonyesha utulivu wakati huu. Tunasema Wakenya wangoje wawe na subira. Maana yake tunasema subira huvuta heri. Tuna hakika ya kwamba mwishowe ukweli itajulikana. Na hiyo ukweli itapata sisi huru.
The Supreme Court judges have until September 5th to determine whether or not the president-elect won validly. Unlike it did in 20...
Comment here. Can I comment here?
The power to quash the elections of the president and order fresh elections within 60 days. was categorically stated that they are seeking both a rerun and retallying of the August 9 presidential election on the condition that the process is not presided by the chairman Wafula Chebukati. The Azimio legal team has filed a petition at the Supreme Court challenging DP William Ruto's win. The judiciary is expected to deliver its verdict within the next 14 days, and in their determination, they shall either uphold or overturn DP Ruto's win. Omondi Otieno, KUTV, Nairobi. All right, so maybe to briefly go through what Raila's team wants the court to determine. Thank you very much, Sir Kenneth, for that report. So, Honorable Raila Odinga or his team wants the court to determine if the presidential election was conducted in accordance and compliance with written laws and regulations, if IEBC's non-compliance with the Constitution affected the validity of the presidential results, if IEBC is in applying or interpreting the Constitution, observe and enhance the value of democracy at relevant times, if IEBC arrived at the declaration of the results in compliance of the Constitution, if after counting the votes in polling stations, IEBC tallied and verified the count as required by the Constitution, and if Ruto was validly declared as president-elect, if rejected votes should be included in the final tally to determine if a candidate has hit 50% plus one threshold, and finally, whether the court should make a declaration of finding that Chebukati violated several sections of the Election Act number 37 of 2016. My question, though, comes from the last statement, whether the court should make a declaration or finding that Chebukati violated several sections of the Elections Act number 37 of 2016. If you're an advocate who's listening or someone who's conversant with matters of the Constitution, I'd love to hear from you. Well, how exactly will it look like for an election which has already happened on a sub-national level, where several seats have already been declared from the MCA level to the members of parliament, to the Senate, to the governors, if the chairman of the IEBC is declared to have been held this or have been in violation of several sections of the Elections Act? Does this put the country in a constitutional crisis where an independent and electoral boundaries commission was headed by someone who did not act independently to head such a huge election event? So let me hear your thoughts at KUTV Kenya as we go on with the show. However, the August 2023 general elections have reached a deafening crescendo with a disputed presidential result that now seeks the services of the Supreme Court. Through its captain, Raila Odinga, and running mate Martha Karua, the Azimio team has listed a number of offences in its petition that seeks to point out why the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, was wrong in declaring William Ruto as president-elect.
9 are termed the respondents in the August 2022 presidential election petition filed by Azimio la Umoja One Kenya flag bearer Raila Amolo Odinga alongside his running mate Martha Wangari Karua. The 9 include the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, all the 7 commissioners charged with the process, and the President-elect William Samoei Arap Ruto, whose victory declaration stems the bone of contention.
The 2022 presidential election represents the most daring move by that cartel to overturn the wishes of the electorate. We refuse to allow Kenya to go that direction.
The 70-page document levels the IEBC chair Wafula Chebukati as operating outside the law, highlighting the 2017 commissioners' fallout and the recent fallout among the commissioners, declaring that the IEBC moved in contravention to Article 81 of the Constitution by declaring a winner in the August 9th presidential polls. Article 81 stipulates that the elective process shall be free and fair, free from improper influence or corruption, conducted by an independent body, transparent, and administered in an impartial, neutral, efficient, accurate, and accountable manner. According to the filed document, Chebukati declared the winner before results from 27 constituencies were verified, apart from failing to ensure a checks and balances by sharing the final presidential tally with the agents, observers, the media, and fellow commissioners. Raila and Karua further note that the voter turnout of 65.4%, equivalent to 14,466,000 voters, 779, was expected to rise as the figure was arrived at through the functional KIMS kit, yet the manual means were also used, yet the final tally of voters was considerably lower, with a total of 14,213,137 voters.
So this is a transparent process at the constituency, in fact, even at the county, all the 6 elective positions. Once you have your result forms and you know what you have, perhaps that's another reason why they are conceding, because it's a very, very transparent process.
The two also point to mischief following an incident that saw the arrest of 2 foreign nationals in possession of IBC paraphernalia that they claim allowed them to access the IBC local network. They were released with the commission claiming they had authorization to possess them.
Wana mwenyekiti mwenyewe akitofautiana na wanachama wake na kutangaza hata kama ma constituencies 31 kutoka yao yalikuwa hajawekwa pale. Ni aibu kubwa kwa demokrasia ya Kenya.
The duo also seeks to prove alterations in 41 Form 34As that display different results despite having identical serial numbers. The petition further contains the declaration of William Ruto as president-elect, claiming he did not meet the 50+1 threshold of the votes cast. A request has also been made to see the IBC, its boss Wafula Chebukati, and the President-elect William Ruto meet the cost of the suit. Emmanuel Kutosi, KUTV.
All right, still staying with that, Azimio la Umoja presidential candidate Raila Odinga has said corruption cartels who have infiltrated Kenya's electoral system must be stopped. Raila said that such should be ejected and rejected for the sake of democracy of the nation.
In recent days, the president-elect William Ruto has seemingly attracted a number of elected politicians to his Kenya Kwanza camp. He said the crew of MPs has agreed to work with him in delivering his manifestos to Kenya. They encompass 10 independent MPs and all leaders elected under the United Democratic Movement. And with the one that seemed to be directed in that direction, Azimio presidential candidate Raila Odinga, after submitting his papers against Ruto's declared win, noted such as being moves aimed at defeating democracy.
Slowly but steadily, these forces are killing our hard-won democracy and are trying to return Kenya into a one-party state in their own interests. You have seen the speed with which they have moved to buy elected leaders just within 1 week. After being denied the numbers at lower levels elections, like members of the National Assembly.
Noting that the realization of the country's full potential was at stake, Odinga pointed out that the thrive of what he termed as cartels seeking power would only be detrimental to the nation if successful.
This potential array of favors for the cartels makes the capturing of government a profitable do-or-die venture for them.
Raila has marked his contention with the August 9th presidential polls that saw William Ruto declared president-elect as a struggle against the threat of corruption that he has noted with concern in his manifesto.
All right, now, in his speech at KICC after filing the petition rejecting the outcome of the just concluded elections, Raila Odinga has asked the foreign nations and Kenya's allies to refrain from interfering with Kenyan politics. The Azimio leader asked foreign countries to wait for the verdict of the Supreme Court that is set to hear and determine the case before file that was filed before it.
Wakenya wote pale kila mahali mko, hata marafiki wetu kutoka ng'ambo ambayo wako hapa, tungependa kuwasihi wawe na subira, wasijiingize katika mambo ya siasa ya kindani ya Kenya. Wacha Wakenya wasuluhishe mambo yao kama Wakenya, na sisi tunaweza kusuluhisha mambo yetu. Asanteni sana, Mungu awabariki, Mungu ibariki Kenya.
Now, various leaders in the country have urged Kenyans to remain peaceful as they await the final decision to be made by the Supreme Court. This is after the Azimio coalition filed a petition disagreeing with IEBC on declaring William Ruto as the president-elect in the recent polls.
Elected leaders from different parts of the country have aired their views on the filed petition in court. Alego MP-elect Samuel Atandi has urged Azimio supporters to believe in the Supreme Court's decision to deliver justice.
And therefore, I want to urge Kenyans to disregard and ignore William Ruto and focus on the court process which is upcoming. And we know that the court process is going to give the people of Kenya justice.
His words were echoed by Deputy Governor-elect Machakos County, Francis Mwangangi, saying that leaders should remain in their parties without jumping from one party to another, and Kenyans should await justice from the Supreme Court.
Najua haki itatendeka kule na uamuzi ule utatokea pale, na niko na furaha sana kwa sababu viongozi wetu wamesema wataenda kotini na ule uamuzi utatokea pale watatii.
Senator-elect Machakos County, Agnes Kavindu, also urged Kenyans to remain calm as they await the court's decision. Speaking after a church service yesterday, Kavindu added that Kenyans should accept the court's final decision without attempting violence and remain peaceful as it has been all through after the general elections.
Tuendelee kuwa na utulivu vile tumekuwa nao, hatutaki watu kupigana, hatutaki watu kumwaga damu.
As Kenyans await the Supreme Court decision on the disputed presidential polls, maintaining peace remains to be the main message, especially before and after the court's decision. Nyambura Kabura, KUTV.
All right, so now the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, has announced August 29th as the day it will conduct elections in areas where the polls were postponed in the recently concluded general elections. IEBC Chair Wafula Chebukati has assured Kenyans that the commission was fully prepared to hold the elections on Monday after postponing the exercise twice.
IEBC has announced that the postponed gubernatorial polls in Mombasa and Kakamega counties will be held on Monday 29th next week. The Commission's chairman, Wafula Chebukati, informed contesting candidates of this during a meeting at the Bomas of Kenya, Nairobi. He also assured them that the Commission is ready and fully equipped to hold the elections on Monday. All 7 commissioners of the IEBC attended the meeting, this being the first time they have all been seen together since their public split over the results of the presidential election. Kakamega gubernatorial candidate Cleopas Malala has said that they have no problem with the date proposed by the commission, but wants assurance that the commission will allocate enough time and resources for civic education to inform voters in those regions of the rescheduled date for them to turn up and vote. ODM's gubernatorial candidate Abdul Swamad Nasir had moved to court to oppose the second postponement of the elections, and the matter was scheduled for hearing today, Monday, August 22nd, before the Malindi High Court. However, during the hearing, which was conducted virtually, it was pushed to Wednesday, August 24th, after it became apparent that the IEBC and the candidates had reached a consensus that the elections will be held on Monday, August 29th. Last week, the IEBC chair released a statement postponing elections in several regions indefinitely. The elections which were to be held during the general election on August 9th were pushed forward to August 23rd after the commission realized a mistake in the ballot papers printed. IEBC suspended Mombasa and Kakamega gubernatorial elections and 4 constituency seats, Pokot South, Kitui Rural, Rongai, and Kacheliba twice. Chebukati cited threats and harassment of his officials as reasons to postpone the elections for a second time. Irongo Kagodha, KUTV, Nairobi.
All right. So that is exactly the report we are receiving right now. Remember, we will be also having a look much more into what is over at the Supreme Court. Whistleblowers, a lot of petitioners against and for the elections, or specifically the presidential race, which was just announced in the general elections of 2022. What will be the Supreme Court likely taking a look at in terms of their decision-making process towards the results, which were, of course, which declared Deputy President William Ruto as the president-elect, or likely the fifth of this country. We'll be having a look at that, but on page 10 here of the Standard, there's a whistleblower who also says that there was a team which was recruited to manipulate the results, that is swap the forms 34As that were sent to the servers of IEBC. Earlier on, I had also mentioned there that Raila Odinga would like, and his team would like IEBC chairman Wafula Chebukati declared unfit to be holding office, that is to be the chairman of the IEBC. What does that mean in terms of the constitution when the chairman of the IEBC is unfit for office, having already conducted 2 general elections so far? And also, what does it mean if there was premeditated or predetermined efforts towards manipulation of the results? That and much more will be coming up in the newspaper review section. But now, with the Azimio La Umoja One Kenya presidential candidate Raila Odinga and his running mate Martha Karua meeting the deadline in the presidential petition, other parallel petitions have been lodged in the highest court in the land in line with the August 9th presidential elections. Samson Jura has this report.
I invite the President-elect.
The Chama cha Kazi party leader Moses Kuria has filed a petition seeking to bar Raila Odinga's suit seeking to nullify President-elect William Ruto's win. In his petition, Kuria accuses Odinga of using his party's chief agents Yataboa Ole Kanchori and others to cause violence at the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission National Tallying Center at the Bomas of Kenya in Nairobi, and wants them probed, while naming Odinga and the Azimio Coalition Party as the first and second respondents respectively. In his petition, whose cost he once met by the respondents, Kuria accuses their agents of physically assaulting Mr. Chebukati. On the other hand, Busia Senator-elect Okiya Omutata has lodged a petition challenging the validity of the presidential result of the August 9th general election. Omutata argues that the tabulation of the presidential result by the IEBC was mathematically incorrect, saying Ruto did not attain the 50+1 threshold, claiming that there was at least 140,028 untallied votes. Still on the presidential petitions, Reuben Kigame, who was also seeking the top seat but never made it to the ballot, has also moved to the court to challenge the validity of the August 9th general election. Kagame is a member of the National Council of Persons Living with Disability, and he submits that his human rights were violated by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, the first respondent in his petition, and its chairperson Wafula Chebukati as the second respondent. On Monday, August 2022 was the deadline to file petitions against the results. The Supreme Court is now set to give its verdict on the issue raised within 14 days.
All right. That is what we have for you this morning in terms of the news updates. Remember, we are focusing mainly on the presidential petitions which have been filed over at the Supreme Court. We'll be having a look at that much more later with Vincent Odundo, who's joining us in just a while. But I'm going for a short break, and then I'll be back with Marjorie Waithera, who is the founder at Jada Mashless. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Jada or Jada, but she'll be here to tell us more. She's also the creative director and is trying to draw inspiration from where she will tell us she draws inspiration from in this business of jewelry. So if you're someone who likes to be shiny, to look good, to be creative, or into jewelry, this is a conversation you definitely do not want to miss out on. Remember, it is all business on Biashara Tuesday. The hashtag to use is hashtag Biashara Tuesday. Tag us up. Also send your feedback and comments on Facebook, where we are streaming live at KUTV Kenya, SMS/WhatsApp numbers, and all over social media platforms, as we have indicated somewhere there on your screen. I'll be right back, so don't touch that remote.
Driving and riding without incidences on the road is such an amazing experience. But do you know, while many road traffic crashes are avoidable, human behavior continues to be the leading cause. Speeding, lane indiscipline, drunk driving, distracted driving, failure to wear a helmet, and failure to use available pedestrian ways have been flagged by NTSA as the fatal 6 behaviors likely to lead to a fatal crash and serious injuries. As part of the Usalama Barabarani campaign, we request all road users to prevent these fatal 6 behaviors for their own safety and that of others. When driving, ensure your speed is within the stipulated limits, the road ahead is clear before overtaking. Stick to your lane, keep left unless carefully overtaking. You're well rested if driving on long distances, and you never drink and drive. Usalama Barabarani starts with you. Fika Salama. This message is brought to you by the National Transport and Safety Authority and the European Union.
I'll just go to the different achievements I have had, which I'm grateful to the Lord and to my mentors for it, because I've also had mentors for the path that I've actually taken. So I think the biggest for me, I'll start by saying, is the number of women who get inspired by seeing me do what I do, seeing me excelling in renewable energy, in engineering. That's the first achievement for me, and the most heartfelt, if I may. There's so much that goes into engineering. There are so many different career paths you can take.
The percentage in which
okay.
If you've seen that, how do you think we can combat such, or how do you deal with that, right? So if you found someone with a knockoff of your product, what do you do about that, right?
Yeah.
Then, yeah, I think by that time will have been good. 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you want
dedicated to agro, 30%.
Okay.
just
So
normal.
let's assume, for instance, that a ministry is given 2 billion, for instance. Now, 30% of 2 billion would be about 600,000? 600 million. That will be dedicated to agro. And therefore, when you go to a ministry, as a young person, as a person living with disability, 600 million is actually meant for you.
This is The Agenda with Benturo Komboka and Colonel Retired Cyrus Oguna.
Access to knowledge, solution to unanswered questions.
Guidelines to pursuing your rights and repossessing your property, intellectual or material.
This and more only on Law Matters.
But you ain't got
I probably look like one of those Kenyan young upcoming rappers from Eastlands. Unajua? Yeah, Afrocentric designs. Here is what I have on my fingers, courtesy of Jada Mashley's. Jada, whichever you want, if you don't want to offend the Smith family, if you know what I'm speaking about. Welcome back to Biashara Tuesday. Engage with us on the hashtag Biashara Tuesday all over social media platforms. I am well presented here, as I said, courtesy of Jada Mashley's, and I'm having the founder and creative director of this business on set with us to tell us, you know, I'll keep trying to, I'll try to avoid doing this, but she'll be telling us what she has gotten into in terms of the business and also the inspiration behind some of these designs. However, something interesting to note that she mentions is Afro-Bohemian. The only Bohemian I know is Bohemian Rhapsody. I know you're probably aware of that. I don't know if that's the inspiration, but we're getting to speak to her in just a few. So if you have any questions that you have on social media platforms, all the lines are open, SMS numbers, also WhatsApp. Make sure that you're sending us that feedback there. Welcome, Marjorie.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I just noticed you also have a piercing, and is that also from you?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, though.
Thank you.
How have you been?
I've been well. How are you?
Yeah. I'm great. How's the business?
The business is going well.
Yeah.
It's now picking up after elections.
Okay.
So yeah, that's great.
Oh, so elections did affect you?
They kind of did, because we were waiting to see how the elections will go. So that, yeah.
Have you seen how they go?
Yeah. We're still seeing.
Yeah, but you're slowly back in business.
Yes.
Okay. So great designs.
Thank you.
This one that looks like a leaf called Kijani leaf. Yeah, and also I have this other one, and there's some more on the table for us we're going to have a look at. But let's begin from that point where I mentioned Afro-Bohemian. Introduce us to Afro-Bohemian and how that comes in to your business.
Okay. So the name Afro-Bohemian is actually a collection of two names, African and Bohemian. And Bohemian basically means someone who's free-thinking, someone who expresses themselves, someone who expresses their individuality, aren't held back by societal norms that don't make sense. And you're just, you know, free to shine authentically. So Afro-Bohemian, African and Bohemian.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're fusing culture and business. Is that a way to get to your client base, or are you actually really passionate about Afro-Bohemian besides the jewelry?
I'm actually passionate about being Afro-Bohemian because I think most of the things that we encounter, even some of the mental health things that we see, it starts with self-awareness. And once you're self-aware, you're able to express yourself authentically, and I do that through jewelry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you express yourself through jewelry. Is that also how you think about the designs?
Yes.
Or how do you, what's the process like that?
So with the designs, I get inspiration from very many things, from our African culture, the Kikuyu culture, because, you know, traditionally we used to be very, very into jewelry. Jewelry was part of very many initiations. It was used to mark ceremonies. So jewelry is a very big part of the African culture. And I also get inspiration from the world around me. So nature, leaves, things like that.
Okay.
Yes.
How do you intend to build a community out of this?
So the way I intend to build a community is soon we'll start organizing events where people come and talk about things, mental health, music, and life in general. So right now how I do that is that I just speak to my friends, and we already are starting to slowly create that community around us. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that many people will be, or it will be open for other people to join.
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay.
Of course.
Are you the one who also does the ones that are on you, the earrings?
Yes.
Okay.
This is actually part of a new collection called Faces and Places, which was created in early April this year. So how they came about is there is this organization called the Nairobi Design Week, which is a really, really huge design firm full of many designers and other people in the design community. And they had an event about, you know, how do you see yourself in the world, how do you speak yourself in the world, show up in the world. So the Faces and Places collection came about through that, and it's supposed to show how individuals connect with each other and how there's interconnectedness between me and you. We could be here seated together, but the way you're experiencing your world is different from how I'm experiencing my world. So these came about through, I was inspired by the conventional human stick figure.
Okay.
So part of the earrings and the rings that you'll see have a pattern that's like a head and the body.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
also see it here.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So just seeing how people come together in the
Okay.
world.
All right. There's that, you know, the aspect of individual and individual expression, right? Will that also determine how you maybe advise me on what to pick as a piece of jewelry? If I came to you and said, I am an extreme extrovert, or I'm this type of person, I'm an introvert, or I'm someone who's outgoing or someone who's shy, will that, is there a piece of jewelry that will fit that kind of personality?
Yeah, there's always something for everyone. If you're more of the minimal type, things that you would like is something like clean lines and not very extroverted designs with big stones and big bones.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you're more extroverted, you want something that shows you out, that shows you want that statement piece.
All
and
right.
yeah. So
Okay.
there's always something for everyone.
All right.
Yeah.
So where do you source the material that you use for making these pieces?
So the material, first of all, that I use is recycled. There's recycled brass, recycled animal bone, and recycled animal horn. So
Recycled animal bone?
Yes.
Is there one with that here?
Yeah, you're actually having one on your
this
finger,
one?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a recycled animal bone.
Okay.
So where we source them is that we source them
which
from
animal?
the cow. Cow
Okay,
generally.
Fuchs, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
All right. Yeah.
So we source them generally from butcheries, like the one in Dagoretti, the big one in Dagoretti.
Mm-hmm.
For brass, we source them in already refined brass shops. So people who already do the refining of the brass and the recycling of it, then we outsource them from them. Yes.
All right. So now, before we go into business, let's still stay on inspiration. So you've spoken about some of the places where you source, going to the butcheries. Is this stuff you knew before, or and also did you do this before you came into business? When did you start actually getting into the jewelry design?
Actually, no, it's been a very high learning curve for me. It's been a very high learning process. In 2019 is when I started this business, I would say, but it was more of a side hustle because I was still in university. I did an undergraduate in engineering and I came across design there.
Okay.
So I got really curious about design. I was very interested in it and I wanted to explore more the creativity side of design. And then when I was reselling the jewelry, I started realizing that there were some anomalies from where I get them from. So they would like undercut the quality. You'd find some of the things aren't real brass, but they're posing them as brass.
Okay.
Or they have so many designs of the same thing. And one of the main things that I was trying to push was unique jewelry.
Okay.
So, and coming across design, I just thought, well, why not? I can also design jewelry. And I just started slowly. And then I got to a point where I released my first collection called Genesis, and people really took to it. So I thought this is something I could do. So I started researching more and more and getting deep into the design world. And that's how I actually came across Nairobi Design Week as well. Business-wise, I've been really helped by the Attic chapter, which is a youth chapter under KNCCI. They have a lot of resources that have really strengthened me up.
What did you call it?
The Attic chapter.
The Attic chapter.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So if through this learning curve, you've met a couple of other people who've inspired you as well. Are there some that you could mention, maybe? And also, since you've mentioned the type of materials that you source, brass, bone, and you also think about the designs. Are you the one who makes them, or do you have other people who work alongside you?
So I do partner with local artisans to create this, the jewelry that you see here, and that's how I make them.
Okay.
Yes.
So you use local artisans. Is that better than maybe? Is there any other option to use?
Well, another option would be for me to create them myself, but I would rather work with them because they're very skilled, they're very creative. They also have some input in the design sometimes, and it's really easy to work with them sometimes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I had asked earlier about inspirations. Are there any other inspirations outside of your work, or maybe others who do this type of business which you look up to?
Yes. There's lots of people who do jewelry. In as much as we probably use the same material, the expression of theirs is different. But I can mention a couple. There's Zanta, there's Brian Kivuti. I really like his work. His work is mostly on silver works and metal. There's people in the fashion design industry, such as Kiko Romeo, and people like that. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The ones who inspire you.
Yes.
Let's speak about your business now. What is the, I was trying to look at your name and the business to see where the inspiration came from or where you got the Jada from. Maybe tell us, is there a meaning behind it? Jada Mashleys?
Well, it's a funny story actually.
Okay. I'm ready to laugh.
So I really love my family and they've supported me throughout up to where I am. So I wanted a name that reflected everyone in my family, and Jada Mashleys is just a combination of my family members' names.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So they also there represented in the business.
Yes.
Okay. You mentioned about sourcing materials. I'm curious to know about quality control. How do you know, since you spoke about some who pose brass material, which isn't brass material, some might pose silver, which isn't. So for those who maybe specifically use that kind of material, how do you ensure quality control for yourself? Maybe you're getting material that is, quality and something that's not counterfeit, and also following up on that one. There's an issue of people maybe faking your products, right? Someone might be somewhere in the back street creating their own Jada Mashleys, right?
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that, or how do you intend to deal with that, those two aspects?
Yeah, so I think a lot of research comes into play with this. You need to know what brass looks like, and you need to know what non-brass things that stand out as brass look like, because unfortunately there are no policies that govern these things here, where the creative industry is still growing, and I think jewelry design isn't really seen as a professional design yet so much, so it's still coming up. So I think the responsibility is to ask people who are creating jewelry to make sure that the kind of jewelry that we're sourcing is not counterfeit.
All right.
Yeah.
Great. And now for the people who might want to create knockoffs of your product, how do you have any way you intend to deal with that?
Yes. So actually, you can copyright the designs, which is a good place to start. In as much as it won't stop them, at least you have the claim to your designs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So other creatives can actually follow up through that channel to copyright their designs as well.
Yes.
To make sure that your product is getting the due reward or revenue that you want. Now, expansion-wise, maybe before we get to that, let's go through some of these products here. Yeah. I saw they have names. Some have names. Some have. I saw there was a Kori earrings or something like that, named after a few female names. So maybe are there some you want us to check us through? Any designer that you want us to check us through?
We can start with this one.
Okay. Okay. So there's that. So what's this one?
So those are the Mumbi earrings. They're part of our new collection, the Faces and Places collection.
Mumbi earrings?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they're actually named after one of my friends. Each earring is named after my friends, and they're the ones who helped me come up with the names.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so the Mumbi earrings.
Yes.
This is really nice. I see they have that body.
Yes, the face and the body.
The face and the body, yeah? This is really nice. So this is the Mumbi. This is a new collection, as you said.
Yes.
Okay.
This and this as well.
How recent is this?
The collection was actually, I started designing it in April. And so April.
And these ones? What are the names?
So those ones are part of the new collection as well, with the body and the face. And those are made of recycled animal horn. So something interesting about the animal horn is you'll never get the same design twice.
Oh.
Yeah, it's as unique as a fingerprint.
All right.
So even if I were to replicate this particular earrings, I would get a different set of the horn, the design of the horn.
Okay, that is interesting. Did you know this along the business? Do you
Yes.
know these exciting things?
Yes, actually, I could pick out a few that are made from horn.
Go on.
The last 4 over there. And you can see that each piece looks different from the other.
Okay, I'll have you hold maybe a pair, and then I can hold the other pair. Sorry. Am I handling them too roughly?
No, it's okay, it's okay. Yeah. So you can see this bit that looks a bit colorless-ish, that's horn.
Okay.
This is the animal horn. And you can see that this horn looks different from this horn, because this one has a black tint here, and this one is completely colorless.
And this is also horn, right? And
yes,
this is
that's
very
black
dark.
horn. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Same as the one that's right there.
Let me get it. Oh, I think this is the one I've liked the most.
Yeah.
Looks really nice.
Yeah. So that's horn as well.
Okay.
So each piece of the horn earring is pretty different. And even if I were to replicate that design, I wouldn't get the exact same horn.
Okay.
And that's what I like about horns.
Nice. So, ukikosana na one of your friends, utafanya nini na? Usha name already.
The name will still remain there. It's a special name. Yeah.
All right. Do they have a copy or something?
What do you mean by that?
Do they have a copy of, do they have a pair each of their own collection? So maybe does Mumbi have the Mumbi earrings?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yes.
You also said that you get inspiration to name your products from people around you. Why did you choose that direction and not just strictly be the one who names all of the products?
I think I want people to feel ownership of the earrings as well, because in as much as I'm creating them, I'm creating for you guys, for you to feel good about yourself when you're wearing them, to feel beautiful, to feel confident, and to feel a part of Jadam Ashley's. Yes.
All right. A very good strategy, of course, to get more of your customers be involved in the business. What is the pricing?
So earrings range between 1,000 and 2,000 shillings, depending on the design. And rings range between 600 and 1,500 shillings. Yes.
So this is?
That's 2,000 shillings. So these two are 2,000 shillings.
The new collection?
Yes, the new collection is 2,000 shillings. Then the rest are 1,000 shillings each.
And these ones?
Those are 1,500 each.
1,500 each?
Yes.
All right. So if you want to get them, make sure you're linking up with that. We'll be talking about where you can get them in just a short while. Let's speak of the business. Do you have partners, or are you doing this one-woman show?
Initially, I was, but I've been very lucky to team up with a team of amazing people. So we'll start with my project coordinator, whose name is Judy Corey. She's really helped me a lot, especially in the production of each collection.
Which one were the Corey ones?
No, they're not here.
Okay.
Yeah, but she's really helped me with the collections and coming up with campaigns to promote the collections. I have my photographers as well. There's Karige Waithima, who photographed the first ever collection. And then there's Kevin Karanja, Joy Kiare, and Ted Kimani, who photographed and edited the second collection. Then there's all the models, the beautiful people who usually dress and promote these earrings. If you'll allow me, I'll mention them. There are quite a few.
Please do.
So I will start with Bonita Njogoine. There's Ashley Wamboi. There's Angie Mumbi. There's Lewis. There's Ted again. There's Finella. And many, many other more.
Right.
Yes.
So those are also people that have been a very core part of this business.
Yes.
When you were starting, did you figure, or did you imagine you'll be working with a lot of creatives, or did you think it's going to be business as usual, just revenues, profit?
I don't know what I expected.
Okay.
But it has turned out better than I ever imagined.
All right.
Yes.
Expansion-wise, what do you think it's going to look like for these designs, and are there other products that you want to include that are not here yet?
So expansion-wise, I'm looking into focusing a lot more on the rings and introducing semi-precious gemstones. So I did that in the beginning, but then at some point I stopped and focused on the bone and the horn. So I'm looking to get into the semi-precious gemstones as well.
What are those ones? What are semi-precious? Why don't go for the precious direct?
So semi-precious gemstones are basically gemstones that aren't really completely pure or completely rare.
Mhm.
So they're more easily to find or
okay.
easily accessible.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the next stage that you're going to.
Yes.
And those ones you're going to use for the rings as well and the earrings.
Yes.
Okay. You're getting into a business where there are jewelry stores that we know of. There are other businesses which are already, of course, giants in the industry, and as I said, not for long, possibly, so that you can rise to the top as well. In that journey, in the learning curve that you've had so far, and looking towards the future, getting into a space where there's others who are maybe have been there for quite some time. How do you intend to penetrate this kind of market?
So what I believe is everyone is offering something unique according to their gifts.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is similar to another person's. Material could be the same, but the expression of how they put it out is completely different.
Mm-hmm.
So in as much as there are other businesses to compete with, in quotes,
Mm-hmm.
what you're actually competing with is the value in which you're providing. So whether someone else has a good customer proposition or a good customer service, whether the quality is really good, whether the designs are very unique, whether you have a community around you that supports you and advocates for your jewelry. So I think that in this market, I will do pretty well.
All right.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you will, because what I'm seeing here is really amazing. Where can people get this?
So you can DM us on Instagram under the name Jada Mashleys, just one word, no underscores, no full stops.
All right.
Yes.
Jada Mashleys on all social media platforms.
Yes.
All right. Do you have a physical store where they can come and check it out?
No, right now we're purely online based.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which also is interesting because technology is now also being a very important factor in business. How has that worked out for you?
Well, there's pros and there's cons.
Okay.
So I would say pros is that I'm able to access more people than I would have if I had a physical store.
Mm-hmm.
And then cons would be that there's so many scammers.
Oh, there are so many con men.
Yeah.
All right.
And con women online.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard for people to trust that you're a real store.
Oh, yeah.
Unless they see that you actually have other people, reviews.
Appraisals and all of that.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So that has been a big challenge.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you're navigating that.
Yes.
I am sure. All right. Thank you very much. I hope you've forgotten about these ones, the ones I'm wearing. You can take the rest. But thank you very much for coming through to the show. And I am hoping that the Afro-Bohemian spirit has touched all of us all over. All right. Thank you very much, Marjorie, for coming through. That is what we had for this segment. Speaking matters of jewelry business, maybe for people who are not into style so much, maybe just a little t-shirt and jeans and sneakers and they're out. I call out to them so that they can also, look cool, look good, and why they need to get some of these pieces as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can have that on this camera.
Okay, sawa. So I would say that each piece of jewelry is an extension of yourself, is an expression of yourself as well. So whether you like something minimalist or you like something that's over the top, there's always something for you. We also do custom jewelry if you'd request a design, definitely not plagiarized. So if you'd request a design, we can come up with one and then have you shine.
All right. They'll have you shine over at Jada Mashleys as I am. So as I go to this break, make sure you check them out. DM them on social media. As she said, if you want any of this, she will be able to deliver that to you. Also, if you didn't get where all that is supposed to be happening, roll back this interview because it's live on Facebook at KUTV Kenya, and we shall also be uploading it later on our YouTube channels. Thank you very much for coming through.
Thank you for having me.
All the best with the business.
Thank you.
Okay, short break on Biashara Tuesday. Coming back with Cynthia Abdallah on Zoom to speak to us on matters of literature. She is a poet and also an author. Several books published everywhere. What exactly is she doing with the literature and how is that coming in with business here on Biashara Tuesday? So don't go too far. Tag me up at Richard_OKENYE. I'll be back.
free. I got up out the hood and took it to the hills. These niggas thinking niggas signed a major deal. The money, the money, the money talk. The money, the money, the money talk. The money, the money, the money talk. You tryna get that money, say no more, let's take a walk.
Sasa ni bora zaidi, mwanzo mpya, mambo mapya. Msimu mwingine wa Boresha Kilimo unakuletea teknolojia ibuka, kilimo mseto, uongezaji thamani. Teknolojia dijitali ya mauzo inawezesha ufikiaji wa masoko. Sokomoko yako, mahangaiko yako ya kufikia masoko yamefika kikomo, manake tunao Mkulima Yangu.
What Mkulima Yangu does is it connects farmers with the market.
Hii ni Boresha Kilimo kwa ushirikiano na Mkulima Yangu. Atafutaye hachoki na kichoka kesha pata. Kwa makala maalum ya kilimo, ungana nasi kila Jumamosi saa 6:30 kwenye kipindi ukipendacho Boresha Kilimo.
Hello everyone, this is the new chapter of Let's Be Fit. I'll be host DiCaplo. I'm here to give you various workouts. I'll be having different trainers. We'll have Zumba classes, we'll have aerobics classes, we'll have box exercise, we'll have kata box, just name them.
Pull up in a beam, too much, too clean, and taller. I don't foster, serious and daughter. A big time player, trip too big and ganja. I went flexer, yeah. Tina said gym, yeah.
The show comes every Thursday from 6:30 a.m. to 7 a.m. Keep it locked, make sure we keep fit, and that's it from me to you. Let's be fit.
I went flexer, yeah. Tina said gym, yeah. Too hot like a heater. My neck done froze like winter. Don't bet it on liquor, yeah. Shades on me picture.
Imagine living in a society that embraces social justice and equal opportunities for all. On Woman Crush Wednesday, Rise Today, we bring you experts for meaningful conversations on matters gender equality.
Mimi nasaona hakuna gender equality as we speak.
So we continuously work with the men.
I feel that they're judging the girl.
Parenthood.
Mind is very important in infertility.
Mental and physical health.
You need to be surrounded by a proper network.
After nimeanza healing process, nilikumbuka kuhusu boys na wase wenye niliacha ghetto. Like kila wakati nilikuwa najaribu kutafuta mbinu yenye naweza wafikishie ujumbe.
I feel like if you have 15 minutes, if you have 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever amount of time, use it, because any physical activity is beneficial. No physical activity is dangerous for you.
And we touch on current affairs.
Marrying is a journey.
Media, by the way, being curious like that. Hello, good morning. Good morning, Cynthia.
Good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
You're ready for the conversation?
Yeah, I think I am. As ready as I can be.
All right, so of course, can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly. There's a point where there's like a little stop when you speak, but I think I can hear you properly.
Okay, all right, no problem. We'll mostly speak about your work, of course, as we had earlier planned. Is there anything else that maybe I'm not aware of that you'd like us to also mention as we have the conversation?
I think the conversation will guide us. Let's start with the works, the writings, the films, and maybe what I intend to achieve with these things that I'm creating, right?
All right. And you're teaching as well, right?
Yeah, I'm a teacher, yeah.
Yeah. So I've been trying to find your piece in Kalahari Review. When was it published, or how many times have you been published at Kalahari?
Let's say about 4 times. The latest was, if you can type in December Kalahari Review, you'll see it there. That was part of my first collection of the short stories.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you type December, you will find it there. If you type The Journey, you will find it there as well.
So yeah, interestingly, in 2018, sorry, let's just come back on there. I'll have this conversation with you later.
All right.
Okay, I'll be with you in a minute.
All right.
It's actually meant for you.
This is The Agenda with Benturo Komboka and Colonel Retired Cyrus Oguna.
All right. Welcome back to Biashara Tuesday. Continue interacting with us on all social media platforms. We're back here to have a conversation on literature, and we will be joined on Zoom with Cynthia Abdallah, who is a Kenyan author of the poetry chapbooks, My Six Little Fears, The Author's Feet, and The Musunzu Tree, and other stories and other collections as well. So her work has appeared in numerous online magazines and in print. I'll just mention a few. For the poems, they've been in the Tokyo Poetry Journal, the Kwani Uchaguzi edition, the Aki Review, Scars Anthology by Ghana Literary Journal. In the short story section, she's appeared in the Kalahari Review, the Nalu Bale Review of Uganda, and also Women Narratives on Power USA in 2021. Cynthia is also a contributor to the Life and Style section of the Nation newspaper, and is also a filmmaker. She's a recipient of several awards. Recent recognitions include a recipient of the Jahazi Press Inaugural Masterclass of 2022. My film, Inyumba Yumulogoli, was selected in the recent Kalasha International Film and TV Market Festival, with screening in Nairobi, Nakuru, Kisumu, and Mombasa. So she has a wealth of experience in the world of literature and film. Her education background from Kenyatta University, and also a teacher, Fulbright scholar, foreign language teaching assistant at Brown University from 2012 to 2013. That is such a robust resume for Cynthia Abdallah, who's joining us here on Zoom, and we are glad to be having this conversation with her. Finally, we've been trying to do this for quite some time now. Cynthia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you feeling this morning?
Feeling all right. A bit anxious, but I'm glad to be here. I'm glad that you took me on and you're giving me this opportunity to speak to you about things that I'm passionate about.
All right, great. Let me maybe begin, because we now know you're an author. There's something I've been thinking about since yesterday. Maybe we can get that out of the way. What is the difference between a writer and an author, or at what point does a writer become an author?
That's an interesting question, because that's what we struggle with as well as writers, especially writers who are coming up. I think at some point when you put your pieces together, you've got to come to terms with the fact that you want to be recognized as an author. And I think that belief in yourself as a writer who can make a difference, is what actually gives you that proof that you're actually an author. But I cannot really put a tangible, definition of what both of them are in as separate entities or as close entities. At the end of the day, an author is somebody who writes, and a writer is an author at the end of the day.
All right, that is quite a thin line to differentiate those two. But now we at least are a bit aware, or I am. So you are, you've published poetry, you've published short stories and other collections. Which side do you think you lean more of? Is it in the poetry side or in short stories?
Actually, poetry. Yeah, I'm a person of few words. I only say a lot when I'm supposed to say a lot, but poetry comes very naturally to me. I find short story writing quite taxing. It's not just about waking up in the morning and writing this little exciting thing very quickly and calling it a short story. It has to go through loops and bounds, and it has to go through tough editorial processes for it to actually become that short story that you want it to become. And I actually learned the tough side of writing short stories when I actually went for the Jahazi Press inaugural masterclass. You have no idea. When I felt my first draft that I thought was amazing, when I brought it to the editors, they thought, you know what, Cynthia, you've got to change, if not all of it, most of it. So short story writing is very intense. But the reason I find poetry exciting is because I had received some lessons before. When I went to Brown, I took some creative writing lessons. So I was very well versed in actually how to create my own voice and how to speak about things I like to speak about as a poet. So poetry comes very naturally to me. Yeah.
All right. Would you say that your poetry has a theme, or of course across all these chapbooks, My Six Little Fears, The Author's Feet, The Musunzu Tree, and other stories collections, would you say there's a certain type of theme that you as an author maybe want to be identified in throughout these different books?
It's quite interesting, Richard, because when I was writing these, for example, the poems in My Six Little Fears have been written for a span of about 7-8 years. I started writing them in 2012. I only published the book in 2020. It took me about 8 years, 3 different continents, 10 different spaces in life. However, when I presented that final chapbook, everybody could see an underlying theme, which is quite interesting, something that I did not pick up on. When I was writing, I was just writing to tell stories, to tell poems. I was writing to just write poems, but people eventually were able to see underlying themes or an underlying theme in My Six Little Fears. The Author's Feet was a bit more intentional. I wanted to create stories on journeys, not just my own journeys, but journeys of other people that were very important to me as well. Eventually, it had a sort of theme, and the title as well was not deliberate. It is something I thought, you know what, I just like the sound of this poem, The Author's Feet, better. So I decided to make it the title of the book. Eventually, when people read that little chapbook, they thought it had an underlying theme of family, love, and relationships. And it was also in writing The Musunzu Tree and Other Stories that also I came to realize after publishing the book and having it on shelves that I had actually used the Musunzu Tree in every single story that I had written. So I feel like when you tell stories, they always find a way. They always find a way to merge. They always find, it's like when a writer is coming from a certain place, knowingly or unknowingly, the themes that they are unknowingly trying to create actually reveal themselves to the readers. It is quite interesting, actually. When people told me, oh, we could see this, we could see that, I was like, okay, that's not what I intended, but it's good that you saw that, yeah.
Right. Right. You've mentioned there the aspect of family and relations as well. Maybe we can segue into film with that. And your film, which is Inyumba Yu Mulogoli, I can hear there a theme of family and household. There was recently selected to be showcased at the Kalasha International Film and TV. Let's begin with the point where you began film. Did you transition from being an author to film, or was that there all along?
Okay, so it's more like adding something to the hat, not really transitioning, just adding something to that. You know, as a writer, there are certain stories that are best told visually. So this was one of those stories that I couldn't really sit down and write at that particular time because it's a historical story of the people of the Maragoli community that my mother's side comes from. So when I sat down, this was in 2015 when this story was told to me by my grandfather. And at that time, I didn't really have the means to actually write a book about it because if you're going to sit down and write a historical story, you need to have all your facts right. And you need to have that aspect of the local language mastered very well. And because I haven't really perfected that, I decided to really create a film first before I actually create a book. See the reception that the film will get while I sit down and look at other Maragoli people who would like to help me on this journey. So I'm hoping that eventually Inyumba Maragoli will become a little historical writing of the Maragoli community, how they traveled from Egypt and ended up in Maragoli land, which is their current home at the moment. So Inyumba Maragoli is still a work in process. It is doing well as a film, but we now want it in the next maybe 5 years. I can't really put a timeline to it. Hopefully, God willing, we can have a little book out on the journey of the Maragoli community.
All right. You've mentioned two things so far that I think I would want us to also talk about, which is reviews and reception from the readers and also generally from the market, if it's in film or as an author. How do you mostly deal with negative criticism? Let's say you've written a book and someone else somewhere, or you've written a poem and someone somewhere didn't like it, or you did this film and someone didn't feel so good about it. As an author who are as a creative, a writer and also a filmmaker who's always, I'm sure, dealing with situations of writer's block or mentor block here and there, how do you deal with negative criticism at such a time?
Wow, Richard, that's a good one. So as a writer, as a creator, there's always going to be a critic. And I think at this age, I'm learning slowly how to take criticism. But let me tell you how I got to a point where I can take criticism very well. There is a poem on criticism that was written by this author. It's actually 600 words long. And this author says, if you're going to criticize something, you need to criticize it from a point of knowing it very well. So when I listen to criticism, I'm very particular about who I'm listening to. If it's just a random person who just likes or dislikes, that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. But if the criticism is coming from a fellow author, it's coming from a really avid reader, I pay very close attention because I want to hear what the readers have to say. And then look at my work and think, okay, is this something I can tweak, or are my readers going to have to just take the stories that I tell them? So at the end of the day, Richard, being a creative means that people will criticize you. Question is, does that criticism create or destroy? There has to be a fine line. There has to be a very clear line on whose criticism you take and which one you do not take. I think I'll find the author of this poem and I will send it to you. And you will have, as a creator yourself, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to pick out a few good things about criticism and why sometimes criticism should not faze you, especially if it's coming from people who do not understand a piece of art or what goes into creating content.
All right. An interesting angle there, criticism coming from a point of knowledge rather than from somewhere that is seemingly attacking the work of the author. Now, when it comes to some of the work that you do, what would you say are the important elements, let's say, of a good poem or a good film in your journey or in your experience?
A good film, from my experience, is preparation. You need to know the topic very well. You need to do research. If you intend to create documentaries, you need to watch documentaries because it is in looking at other people's creations that you actually create yourself. Inspiration does not come from the blue. Inspiration comes from watching other people, learning from other people, and taking a lesson or two. It is in watching other people that you will know what to what to actually do or what not to do, or what to actually infuse in your pieces of work. Number two, knowledge of the topic that you're creating is very important. So you've got to do some research. What are you talking about? Is it factual? Can it be backed up by evidence? Very important. You can't just wake up from the blues and talk about, for example, the Marangoli community without actually getting the people talking about this community to be actually people that can be trusted, good sources of information. Okay, when it comes to poetry, I tend to go with what I'm feeling at that particular time. How am I feeling? What stories do I want to tell at that particular time? If you look at my collection, my 6 Little Fears, these stories, the poems in this particular chapbook were told at a time when I was really trying to become something. I hadn't really achieved anything at that particular point in time. So if you read those poems, you'll see that struggle. You'll see that little pain of trying to achieve something. But then when I wrote The Author's Feet, I was at a very good place in my life. However, I was feeling very nostalgic because I had lost a few people. I was missing home. I had lost people I really cared about. So those stories in The Author's Feet, the poems, I keep calling them stories. The poems in The Author's Feet speak of things at that particular time that I feel very dear, that are very dear to me. When you look at maybe right now, when you see your parents getting older, you start to observe your parents and you start to think of all things that have happened in life. That is what happened when I was writing The Author's Feet. I'm currently working on another collection, but we'll see where that journey takes me, because where am I at the moment, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Now, is there an ideal audience you will say that is targeted by your film or poem? Is there, if there is, maybe you could tell us more about it. Are there a specific group? Is there a specific group of people who you target with your poems, or maybe you feel that they could relate more than the general population?
My poems, I would like to think, are meant for anybody who enjoys a bit of poetry. Anybody who wants to go back in time, anybody who wants to come with me on a journey right now, and anybody who's thinking about the future. But now we are looking at a society that is very traditional African society. We are an African society, and Africans and Kenyans in particular love narratives. And I feel like the spoken word element has actually taken a little bit away from the actual poetry scene, because everybody expects the poems to read a certain way. So I have, for some reason, feel like the poems in my 6 Little Fears are sort of niche because they're very short and very pithy, and it takes a particular reader to really enjoy those certain poems. But that's sort of the voice that I'm going for as a writer. When it comes to The Author's Feet, I had my Kenyan audience in mind because most of them are narratives. So I think it will have an even more, a better reception because it is more, the stories are more, the poems are narratives, and Kenyans in particular, that with our oral tradition, prefer narratives. The Musunzu Tree collection, usually my short stories are based on things that I have, things we have experienced. And I like to go back in the traditional. I like to go back to the villages. That's what I like to write about. I'm not very big on writing about the city. So if you want to enjoy stories from the village, a little taste of the village, that's where you go. Yeah, that's where you go.
All right. In the various chapbooks that you have, would you say there's one that is your favorite? I know maybe you're a parent who loves all their children, but is there a favorite child of those different chapbooks, and why is that?
I would say The Author's Feet, I think really probably is my favorite at the moment. They're all very good books, but The Author's Feet would be my favorite because of the stories in there and the poems in there. I have actually talked about the people in those poems that are very dear to me, things that happen that are very dear to me. So I hold it very close to me. And the fact that it's a collection of small narratives, even better, because I know a lot of Kenyans would enjoy it as well. And because I want a lot of Kenyans to read my short stories, my poems, I would probably steer them towards that. When it comes to documentaries, My documentaries are based on human stories, human interests. So if I'm going to go out there and film something, it's going to be about something that I think people would want to hear about. We're currently filming female leaders and looking at how these female leaders are out there doing. This community leader in Kajiado is doing in Kajiado and what she's bringing to the table in Kajiado. And I think that's going to be a very good story on women empowerment. A few months ago, we shot something on gender-based violence, which is something I'm very passionate about. So when it comes to documentaries, I'm very deliberate at the moment. I'm only going for things that are humanistic, things that could make a difference. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to spin off into something interesting here. You mentioned that, or I am already aware that you've been published, of course, in several online magazine publications. And I went there to just have a look at your story from December 2020, and a story about the children who feel at home in their little village, a story about kids in the village during a Christmas period, right? So this is interesting because if you go there on the KalahariReview.com, KalahariReview.com site, and search for Richard OKENYE. In 2017, I won the Igby Prize for nonfiction. That is for a story I wrote around Christmas as well. So it is quite interesting to see that we have also shared a platform in that regard. So how would you say some of these publications, such as the Kalahari Review, have been influencing positively the space of literature in the country, or even generally all over Africa?
In fact, okay, congratulations, Richard. I always feel like writers, content creators always find a way. Somehow the paths are aligned. See, you and I just met the other day and we're all here on the same platform. So congratulations about that. So when it comes to publication, for an author, publication is very important, especially if you intend not to write for yourself. I know a lot of people will say I write for myself, but personally, I don't really write. I want to write for myself and for others. And these little publications actually really propel our readership. They actually get us more readers. They get us more critics. They improve our art and our craft. So it is important that we write and send our stuff out there, just so we can have a feel of what the society wants to read, of what the society wants to hear. And especially if deep down you feel like you're a quiet activist who wants to sort of tell stories that haven't been told, or we want to raise awareness, it is important that you actually send your work out there so that it is read. I was really appreciative of Kalahari Review because Kalahari Review is one of those spaces that got me thinking that I could actually get published. And I actually started sending my stuff to various places and spaces. The Tokyo Poetry Journal was also an amazing one. The Kwani Uchaguzi 8th edition was also amazing. And the most recent one was that IHRA, International Human Rights Arts Festival in New York, where we wrote about women and power. So it's a collection of narratives on women power. And it's quite emboldening, actually. It emboldens you. It makes you feel like, you know what, you have something to offer into to this literary scene. And also another thing, Richard, sorry for rambling. Another thing is we need to create more writers. I don't care what people say, oh, we have this one person, we have this person. This one person will represent our stories. No. Just like in developed countries, we have tons and tons of writers. So should we in Kenya strive to have the same. We cannot create a space for one writer. We need to create space for so many writers that many kids, many people in Kenya actually take to read it. And that's just how I feel about it.
Right. That is also favorable to ensure that more of the kids who are coming up are getting involved in literature and also getting knowledge and access to some of these resources. And one of those ways which you're doing that is that you're a teacher of linguistics, language and literature. So we'd love to hear more about that side of you nurturing the next generation of talents. How is that going and how did you get into it?
Okay, so I graduated with a Bachelor of Education degree at KU in 2010. So I'm a teacher by profession and I've been teaching literature for, let's say, about 12 years now. Yeah, 12 years now. I teach high school students. I started off at a college and I taught literature there, but now I teach high school students. And I ensure that every 6, 7 weeks, we are reading something different. We are living in a world where kids are stuck on their phones. Nobody's reading. Nobody is reading. And if you want to gain knowledge, what people do not understand, if you want to know, you have to read. And that is what we are struggling with as teachers of literature. So if they can see that our teacher has actually written something, then they will think, okay, you know what, that's something to aspire to. Reading is actually not that bad. So it is a struggle, yes, to get these kids to read, but it's something literature teachers have to do, because if we look at it in our current system of education, we need to ensure that kids are not only just reading set books. Kids are actually reading from grade 1 all the way to Form 4, or whatever it is CBC will create. We need to have more authors. As Kenyans, have our very own authors in our own space. I teach here in Venezuela, and I can guarantee you that I teach Africa. When I came into the department, there was only one set of books from an African writer. That's Chinua Achebe, an amazing, amazing writer. Only one person. But since I came into the department, my entire classroom is littered with books from African writers. We've got to really read our own writers. Yeah.
We definitely need to read our own writers, and that's why I think maybe I can get to understand your view on the money-making aspect of this literature business. We are on Biashara Tuesday, and we can't avoid the business conversation. So, is there enough monetary reward to be a writer in Kenya? And if so, how does that work out? If not, what is it that you can encourage maybe writers who are coming up to pursue? Because we always get this situation where a writer is asked where they have another job. You know, they can't be completely an author. They have to have something that is supporting writing or being an author as a side career. So someone who wants to go fully into being an author, are there opportunities of making revenue, and how can we enhance this into the future?
From what I've heard, apparently there is a way you can become an author without doing something on the side. I'm yet to see that. It's difficult being a writer. When you write because you're passionate. And I haven't seen the monetary successes of it yet. Honestly, a lot of writers are putting in a lot of work. The readers are very few. It is actually something to do with the Kenyan society. Very few people are reading. If you want to know very few people are reading, go onto social media and look at the type of conversations people really enjoy. Very few people are reading. And that is where if there's money, then that is where the money is. And our money is not coming in to read our work. So maybe we need to create a reading culture, encourage people to actually read. That there is actually joy in sitting down and reading instead of scrolling on Facebook or in Instagram or TikTok. We're looking at people who create very silly videos maybe on TikTok, making way more money than writers who could change a generation. So maybe it's just us as Kenyans looking into ourselves and thinking, what's more beneficial to us?
You mentioned there, interestingly, social media, and it is an age where maybe a majority of the population, the youth, are mostly the ones, of course, on those platforms. How have you been able, if at all, used social media in your path as an author or as a teacher? Has it complemented you positively in any way?
Yeah, it has. I have tried. I wasn't really a social media person, but I've had to, because now for you to get yourself out there, you have to go into social. You have to go where the people are. My Instagram page, I have these readings on my YouTube page. I have my films on my YouTube page. I have my readings on Instagram, my stuff on Facebook, just so that people can get to know who I am. And try to access my works as well. So let's see how that pays off. So social media is there to stay.
Where can people get some of your work? I know that the film is here. People, if anyone wants to, get to your film, they can check out shaharavideos.com and the books as well, the chapbooks. Where can they find them?
So my books are available at the All African Bookshop, formerly Writers Guild at Azina Towers. They're also available at Nuria stores in Nairobi, and also at some select Naivas stores in Nairobi, Kenya as well, and in other places and other spaces. If they go onto my social media handles, they'll be able to know exactly where at Naivas these items are available. So a few Naivas stores, Nuria stores, All African Bookshop. If you're abroad, there is Kindle on Amazon where everything is available.
Do you still write at The Nation, Life and Style?
Absolutely. I had something last week, so I'm hoping that this week will be something on there as well. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. We shall make sure that we do tune into that. Maybe a last question. How do you celebrate when you are finished a book you've been writing for a long time or a film that you've been thinking about a long time? How do you celebrate that moment, if at all?
I celebrate by thinking, oh, you know what, I could have done this better. It's just something about creating, Richard. When you create the final piece, you start to think, oh, you know what, I could have edited it better. I could have done it better. But then again, you think, if I start editing, I would edit forever. So
Okay.
I try my best to just appreciate what I have and actually just promote the work and hope that somebody loves it just as much as I do.
All right. Thank you very much, Cynthia, for joining us. And we are hoping one time in the future when you pop in through to Kenya, make sure that you drop by here. We'd be very, very happy to host you.
Thank you so much, Richard, for the opportunity. This is amazing, and I'm grateful for the opportunity.
All right. Maybe before you go, we have one question here from our viewer, Malik Oyondi Otiende. He's asking that the Maragoli are Luya. They are the largest, but it's among the 18 sub-tribes of the Mulembe nation. Are you planning to go further than the Maragoli into the other sub-nations in these stories that you've been writing?
Absolutely. Thanks for asking that. So I'm working with another guy already, so we can go into the Banyole community, and then hopefully we can go into the Tiriki community. It's a taxing venture because I need to really do some research before I go out there and drop something else from a different tribe. But that's the plan. The plan is to document as many sub-tribes as I can so that they all have a story at the end.
All right. That is Cynthia Abdallah, currently is a teacher of language and literature, speaking to us all the way live from Venezuela here, her journey in the world of literature and also as a filmmaker. We are very glad to have had her here. Make sure that you check out her work, and also the film is at shaharavideos.com. Check it out and tell us what you think. But for now, Biashara Tuesday comes back to normal business as well. Hashtag Biashara Tuesday on all the social media platforms. We will be back with the newspaper review section with Vincent Odundo, so don't go too far. Oh, what a time. You know, I used to be a creative writer, evidently. You can check out my story too. I won the Kalahari Review Igby Prize of 2017. I was really young at the time, competing against giants all over Africa. This is actually something that receives entries from all the 54 countries, including any African who's in diaspora. So I have to blow my own trumpet there for a moment. Cynthia Abdallah reminding me of the time when I used to be a creative writer, but she is a poet, a Kenyan poet and author, has a couple of chapbooks, so you can check them out, and also a filmmaker. Shaharavideos.com is where you can get her film Inyumba yu Mulogoli. Malik Oyondi Otieno amesema hiyo ni just one sub-tribe of the Luya, so we'd love to hear more other stories. I'll be definitely be looking at some of these films and also checking out her poetry. She's a teacher of language and literature in Venezuela, and she's also trying to nurture the next generation of authors. She says there's not much money in the Kenyan market for an author to fully go, or for a writer to become an author fully as the only or as the main career. But if you want to, get into that kind of space, do get in and also see the problems which are there, and all of us as a community can be able to, make money work in the world of books. That is what we have spoken about here on Biashara Tuesday. We'll be coming back with the newspaper review section, so grab yourself any of the dailies, the Standard, the Nation, Yosina, and the Star. So I have the Business Daily, the Standard, and the Nation. Any other that you have, tell me what the headlines are looking like, and then we can compare that in a while. However, before we get into that, the World Vision Kenya, in collaboration with Kenya Library Services, launched an initiative at Olonganayo Primary School aimed at supporting early child development programs in Narok County. The initiative is sponsored by Lego Foundation and Aga Khan Foundation and is expected to benefit about 2,000 children in 20 primary schools in the county, as Irungu Kagutha now reports.
The launch of this project coincides with the Lego Foundation's 90th anniversary, with the theme being Build a World of Play, with the aim of highlighting the importance of playing among children and their parents or caregivers. Narok and Bomet's World Vision Cluster Manager, Ms. Mirasin Meiguran, stated that the project will be implemented in 18 months and is expected to improve the learning standards of children in targeted primary schools.
The Lego Foundation CEO is mentioning that it is easy, it is possible, it only requires the will for everyone to take a role in ensuring that we are creating a play environment for children to learn.
Narok County Commissioner Isaac Masinde praised the program and stated that forceful female genital mutilation and marrying off of school-going girls was illegal, and warned that anyone caught engaging in these practices will be arrested.
The national government haitakubali ati watoto wasichana wanalazimishwa kuoswa kwa wazee na mambo ya FGM. Serikali haitakubali hata inchi moja. Our president Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta alijikomiti yeye mwenyewe in the international community kwamba mambo ya FGM inaisha mwaka huu wa 2022.
Narok County Executive Member in charge of Education and Youth Affairs, Ms. Cecilia Woupari, thanked the implementers of this program as well as the teachers for promoting education in the county and urged parents to be supportive of their children throughout this process.
Mwalimu aweza kubadilisha akili mpaka ikapefuka ikawa ni yenye kutamaniwa na watu wote. Kwa hivyo kongole walimu, kazi yenu ni bora, tunawapenda, tunawadhamini, muendelee kutia nakshi kwa sababu safari hii ni ngumu, lakini kama mwalimu ameshikilia usukani, tuna habari kwamba tutafaulu na tutashinda. Asanteni walimu.
This program is also being implemented in Kakamega and Nairobi counties and targets about 6,000 learners and 5,000 caregivers in all the chosen counties. Irungu Kagutha, KUTV, Nairobi.
Driving and riding without incidences on the road is such an amazing experience. But do you know, while many road traffic crashes are avoidable, human behavior continues to be the leading cause. Speeding, lane indiscipline, drunk driving, distracted driving, failure to wear a helmet, and failure to use available pedestrian ways have been flagged by NTSA as the fatal 6 behaviors likely to lead to a fatal crash and serious injuries. As part of the Usalama Barabarani campaign, we request all road users to prevent these fatal 6 behaviors for their own safety and that of others. When driving, ensure your speed is within the stipulated limits, the road ahead is clear before overtaking. Stick to your lane, keep left unless carefully overtaking. You're well rested if driving on long distances, and you never drink and drive. Usalama Barabarani starts with you. Fika Salama. This message is brought to you by the National Transport and Safety Authority and the European Union.
The percentage in which government is giving opportunities to this specific type of groups under the AGPO, like what percentage has the government given?
No, but like I said, you see, when a budget is done for every year, every ministry will be able to place their budget for it. But whatever is given to them, 30% of the budget for that ministry is dedicated to AGPO. 30%. So if let's assume, for instance, that a ministry is given 2 billion, for instance. Now, 30% of 2 billion would be about 600,000? 600 million. That will be dedicated to AGPO. And therefore, when you go to a ministry, as a young person, as a person living with disability, 600 million is actually meant for you.
This is The Agenda with Benturo Komboka and Colonel Retired Cyrus Oguna.
First time?
Yeah, I'm kind of scared, but I can do this.
Yeah.
Mess with me. Yeah, let's do this, man.
The Supreme Court does that, it acknowledges this now, because now we'll need to have an election and it's not.
Technology, science, innovation, ICT and research. These are the ingredients upon which the solutions to the 21st century problems are founded. In a world that is rapidly changing, it's all hands on deck to ensure a balance in all fields of life. Women, young and old, are also in the front line, breaking the glass ceiling, becoming thought leaders in the larger tech space. Not forgetting other societies marginalized. And when the tech Avengers come together, we inch closer to a much safer, efficient and sustainable world. What we view as a norm in today's advanced world was just an idea, and for nostalgic reasons, we trace back to the iconic days to bring you the retro tech. On Tech Innovation Show, we encapsulate all the pillars of the fourth industrial revolution, decoded in a language, all for one for all. Make a date with me, Samson Jura, every Monday at 8:30 as we push the mantra, keep learning something new each and every day. Only on KUTV, a new experience.
Welcome back to Biashara Tuesday, an exciting morning where we've been having various different conversations, from literature to business to politics. And now we're getting into much more of politics happening all over the dailies. If you have the Standard, take a look at the headline, Raila, my case against IEBC. The Business Daily is much more focused on business. Toyota sells stake in Kenya IT firm after row with state. So they're focusing more on matters of business. And on the Daily Nation, was it stolen? Was it stolen? I think let's begin with the Daily Nation. I'm joined here by one and only, the enigma, the legend, the man, the myth, Vincent Odundo, back here.
Odinga.
I wish I was going to say Raila Odinga, but close, Odundo. Right, welcome back, Odundo.
Thank you for having me, Richard. Quite great to be on your show this particular morning. I think you've seen the dailies, everyone is just on Raila Odinga, Raila Odinga, Raila Odinga. And I think even he himself, with the kind of show he put yesterday while filing the petition at the Supreme Court, he did expect this sort of response and coverage by press. So I think I've gone through the papers today morning and quite some, I'd say, balanced coverage per se.
The Daily Nation says, was it stolen? What do you think, first of all, of this headline? I felt it's too sensational. I don't know what you think about it. I feel like they could have gone with a different phrasing of the headline.
That's one way to look at it. At the same time, was it stolen? This is the big question that now all Kenyans have regarding this particular election. One of the greatest debates we've had in the country, not even right now, but previously, 2013, 2017, and 2022, coincidentally, years where Raila has been petitioning, has been that an election is not only the act of voting, it's a process from the preparation of the voters, the preparation of the voting material, to the employment of staff, human resource, and the technology, and eventually, of course, culminating to the announcement of a winner. So this is the question before the Supreme Court right now, and I think the Daily Nation props for that. Quite a bold headline.
Oh, really? You like it?
Yeah, was it stolen? It's a question
I feel like it's lazy. However, if you go with it, it's a draw. Was it stolen? So let's answer this question. Was it stolen? Raila Odinga is here in a bombshell petition to the Supreme Court, having a lot of issues which are highlighted. If you can have a look at some of the things that he has mentioned, very well detailed. I think that was in the Standard. Yes, very well detailed in the Standard. Yeah. And some of the things he mentions include one, that Wafula Chebukati is not fit to have held office. He went pedestrian, as they're calling it on that side of Azimio. He went pedestrian with how he handled the tallying of and announcement of the presidential results. The other issue of contention is that they are aware of an infiltration into the IEBC servers. There were Form 34As which were swapped. Also, that DP William Ruto did not attain 50% plus one, and they have evidence, Azimio claims to have evidence that he did not. So which of these angles are they attacking the Supreme Court with? Are they just going all-out attack it just to maybe fish and try which one works?
Something interesting about this election, and this petition particularly, it's not only Raila Odinga petitioning, but 9 others, right? It's actually 9 in total, so Raila Odinga and 8 others, including one against Raila himself now by Moses Kuria.
Yes.
I'm sure we'll get to have a good laugh about that sometime later in the show. So, as you could tell, when you look at all these prayers that Azimio is making to the Supreme Court per se, not all of them have legal water. Not all of them are going to stick. But then again, being that this was a very closely contested election, Richard, you should expect that any dispute on the figures will ultimately change the eventual result, because William Ruto was barely above 50%. Raila Odinga was just somewhere below 50% right there. And you do expect that any of these prayers, if any of them is granted, then it will eventually lead to the overturning of the results as were declared by the IEBC chairperson Wafula Chebukati. So I think that's the strategy Azimio is going with. The Standard put it clearly here that they were they're trying to attack the process in itself. The process, what was going on, where, who was handling what, with what and why, and so on and so forth. And then the second, they want to scrutinize the numbers. Why did he get this number here, and how did he get it? Was this the number that was declared at the constituency level? Is everything adding up? You remember the debate about 0.01% adding to 142,000,
right.
The biggest mathematics equation in Kenya.
Some of the biggest mathematical calculations which have been done recently. And I'm sure calculators were wondering, what is this 0.01% that is suddenly happening? Some of the 7 other petitioners who are challenging Ruto's win have raised 15 or so issues, which some, as you said, some might stick, some might not.
Some might not. And if any sticks, it will have a huge consequence on the declaration by the Supreme Court.
Is there a chance then that Raila Odinga could be maybe behind some of these other petitioners, or are they just independent? Do you feel they're independent?
We can't really speak for individual petitioners because anyone in Kenya, particularly who participated in this election, observers and even organizations that were running the polls itself and partners in this particular situation, we're speaking about the commissioners themselves, they have a right to appeal, to petition the results that are declared at Bomas. So necessarily these people might have acted in their own rights, or necessarily they might have also been motivated by some other. But
you have a general feeling that Raila Odinga has a stronger case.
Yeah, ideally in politics, what you get to understand, Richard, and I think this has been consensual. People have agreed on this over ages, of course. In politics, you get to understand that you look at who benefits more from something. That's how you know exactly who may or may not be behind it. In crime, they say follow the money. Whoever has the money, that's what
the one who's behind it.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
All
so
right.
I think Raila has a lot to gain from these 8 petitions.
Okay. Before we take a look at some of the statements that these petitioners have made, maybe let's have a look at the timeline again once more in what exactly the Supreme Court is looking at due to this petition. So we are in August 23rd, just a day after petitions are filed at the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has 8 days until the August 30th to do a pre-trial conference, and then we can get to a court hearing to determine the petition, and this is a process which will take 14 days. So we have 22 days, at least 22 days until when we know what the Supreme Court has decided on the petitions which have been presented before them. The court either nullifies or upholds the election. And within 60 days, if it's been nullified, we go back to the polls and a fresh presidential election is done. And then 7 days later, of course, the president-elect is sworn in. If the court upholds the elections as they stand, Deputy President William Ruto will be declared the president, or the 5th president of the Republic of Kenya. 14 days, Odundo.
14 days.
To determine 7, or let's include Moses Kuria, to determine 9 petitions, right?
Yeah.
Does the Supreme Court have the timeline to actually do this in an efficient manner?
Capacity, I doubt, but strategy, probably. One thing that we might expect, of course, is some of these petitions are going to be thrown out. And of course, Moses Kuria, let me just go into it already so that we get out of the way.
Right.
He's petitioning all the prayers by Raila Odinga not to be granted because of the chaos that happened at Bomas of Kenya, right? And we are at a point in the country where we are debating elections, something that is so central to the fact that we are a democracy and one of the strongest democracies in Africa, per se. We're disputing process, we're disputing numbers, we're disputing actual issues that might help grow Kenya and even develop our country further, right? And progress our country further. And here comes a gentleman that, hey, they were chaotic, kindly dismiss everything. I don't think Moses Kuria is serious. And also having it in mind that no one in particular from the Bomas of Kenya has filed any police case, maybe reporting injury from the violence that happened there. Nobody, there is no particular case that I or anyone else is aware of at this particular moment, at least from what I've gotten in the press and from fellow journalists regarding the violence that happened there. So I think that is may be dismissed. and an issue, as I think politicians would call it, right?
Okay.
And some also might end up being joined. For example, the petition by OKENYE Umtata, that might end up being joined by with the petition Azimio has made, so that they are ruled together, they are judged together, and eventually, of course, they are concluded together.
Okay.
So those are the two strategies I think that
Maybe we look at a few statements here which have been made by the other petitioners. John Njoroge Kamau saying that electoral offences that were committed by the IEBC started all the way from the time they started printing ballot papers to mixing up of voting materials in certain areas, as we've seen in Kakamega and Mombasa, for example, where there were printing errors, and that led to the postponement of the elections there. OKENYE Umtata, as you mentioned, also saying that this declaration was done in the absence of 4 IEBC commissioners, and therefore it does not stick because it looks like Wafula Chebukati was acting on his own decision making. Ruben Kigame, who was also denied a chance by IBC to contest in the presidency, has also filed a petition to contest that and saying that they illegally locked him out and that the other 4 presidential candidates were appointed or were cleared illegally. Youth advocacy, also the other ones who are raising an issue here, saying that there are some of the counties where that or not all people were considered, including special considerations to those who have physical challenges and so forth and so on. So all this within 14 days, as you said, there may be some of these cases which they will be thrown out. They'll be thrown out.
Some will be joined.
Some of them will be joined together
rightfully.
For Raila Odinga. The question now comes here is some might say that regardless of how the Supreme Court decides, right, whether these elections were free or credible and all of that or not, this is still a step towards democracy, towards having a better electoral system into the future. Would you agree the same, or are we wasting too much time with some of these?
When all is said and done, I think anyone who is concerned with the public discourse and the progress of democracy in the country right now will have a similar opinion to yours. I think the BBC did write an article on it yesterday, quite popular in the UK. I saw it at the top of the popular articles then on their website, bbc.co.uk yesterday. And part of the debate or the conversation was revolving around the fact that these petitions give the country a moment to actually review progress, to review process, and to review something that, again, I said is so central to the democracy that we are as a country, where each vote counts. You remember, for example, I was telling you right before we came on air, Richard, initially we used to have an election at a national level. We used to have a national election, right? And then after 2017, the Apex Court ruled that we'll be having the results announced at the constituency level, and that will be the final result, I mean, for the presidential candidate or whoever. So right now, ideally, what we have 290 or 291 individual elections taking place in the constituencies plus the diaspora now. And then the IEBC at Bomas, their only job is to aggregate what comes out of the 291 individual elections that we have in the country. So these are some of the progresses that have been made, of course, by virtue that Raila Odinga went before a court and disputed what came out from a previous election, of course.
So it is good to see this.
Yeah, and within his right, he does this within his right.
Okay.
Something interesting, I was looking at the prayers to the judges. I think everyone was focusing on that today. And scrutiny of rejected and spoiled votes. Do you know, this has been a huge conversation. What do you do with the spoiled votes?
Where do they go?
Where do they go?
Right.
Why is a vote rejected? How is it a spoiled vote? These are some of the questions that I believe the court will be getting to answer. They managed to dodge that in 2017, whether or not the rejected and the spoiled votes are put as a total of the final tally, because they are votes anyway.
Because they are votes, right?
And you realize in this particular election, if those votes are added, if they're included, William Ruto drops below 50%.
Okay. So they do have a case if that is considered.
If that is considered.
All right.
And the court has to make a final ruling on this so that we move on and we have every vote count or some of the votes not count.
All right. Now we have also a situation where IBC, in one of those prayers, as you've already now gotten into it, to declare that they want the court to declare that IBC chairman Chebukati and the other 2 commissioners acted irregularly, or they committed election irregularities. Now, if we have a situation where the chairman of the IEBC acted irregularly, and then we have declared results for elections in all the various constituencies, do we have a crisis in the constitution at that point where an election was conducted by someone who was not fit to be in office? What do you think? How do you think that will play out?
Mad stuff, I tell you. Because for one, if by any chance Wafula Chebukati is touched by the Apex Court, and I mean this touched in terms of there's any question to his role as the presiding officer at the national level.
His integrity.
His integrity, in fact. We will have a situation where we should have an election. We don't have someone to preside over the election. So it's going to be a crisis. But then again, I feel the Supreme Court or the judges at the court, they're going to be really careful touching on some of these issues because at the back of their minds, this is something that it's not with the law, but then again, it's always at the back of the minds of judges. They want to protect, they want to protect the courts in terms of they want the court to give rulings that are implementable. So let's take a situation where they declare Wafula Chebukati unfit for public office, right? And then they declare a rerun, right? They'll be putting the country in a situation where or the courts themselves, right? They'll be putting the courts themselves in a situation where they give out a ruling that is impossible to implement. So that will look bad on the courts themselves. So I feel these are some of the conversations that, of course, when the judges will be hearing these particular cases, in their minds they'll be thinking about some of these things, not necessarily with consequences to the rulings, but just to be aware that if you do this, this might happen, and this might eventuate.
This is interesting because I was having a look at a few comments online also yesterday on the question, and also we did see Raila Odinga, of course, coming out to say that the international community should be staying away from either congratulating President-elect William Ruto or seemingly leaning to one side of the political divide. And you've mentioned there that the court has to have considerations of various factors that are not just the petitions as they go on into making their decision. Does the political temperature of the country also do count in? How will the citizens react if this kind of decision is made, or that kind of other decision is made, if it's implementable or not? Does the political temperature also come in as a factor?
Now, something interesting that I got to learn from an advocate, Newton, Odundo. No,
free plug to Newton.
Yeah, free plug to Newton. Is that the law not only has to be fair, it has to appear to be fair. That's it. So these are some of the things that also, again, the judges will have at the back of their minds, not necessarily putting it forward, but then their ruling has to also appear fair. So I think that's where the temperature, the political temperature of the country comes in. It has to appear to be fair.
All right.
So we expect some balance per se, but also, of course, fairness in terms of the rule of law has to be followed to the letter, considering we're in a democracy and each vote has to count.
Right. Now, some are calling Chebukati a hero, as did Deputy President William Ruto during his victory remarks over at Bomas of Kenya, and some are calling him a villain who has orchestrated two elections which have been divisive and one of the most expensive elections all over in the world. Two sides. Is he a hero or is he a villain? What do you think?
I was in Siaya yesterday, and as you can imagine, I also did vote in Siaya, and I observed elections in Siaya. And as you can imagine, of course, there was a bit of excitement. There was a bit of praise to Chebukati, praise to the process. In fact, even internationally, the voting process in Kenya this time round was, it was lauded. It was lauded by all and sundry. Everyone just saying this is the best thing we've seen ever.
Right.
Especially considering the public portal came up and everyone
will be accessing that.
Right.
Yes.
And people were sitting down with their calculators and adding by themselves. Media houses did that. There was a huge effort to get everyone to be included in this apparent transparency now that Raila Odinga is disputing. Now, there are two sides of the coin. There's that side where this election has been free, fair, credible, and verifiable. And there's the other side where this election has been none of what I've mentioned.
Right.
In fact,
null and void, as Raila Odinga calls it.
Null and void. In fact, I remember Senior Counsel James Orengo, now the governor-elect for Siaya County, saying that if elections were to be held in this manner, then there's no need of having elections at all.
Right. We should be just appointing people.
That's it. And I think these are all sides of the country, because as we speak, we are divided, I'd say 50-50. I
love how you've avoided giving us your opinion and just given us a perspective of how it looks like. Do you think, on a personal level, that he did, he's a hero or a villain? As an observer.
From where I sit,
yes.
Both as a journalist and as a Kenyan citizen, one thing, in 2017, an election was nullified where the chairperson presided. But remember, the courts didn't follow through with any orders. They didn't give any way forward on whether or not this would have a consequence to the people overseeing the election, per se. And then you remember then, NASA, that was still the NASA coalition led by Raila Odinga. They said if this nullification is not going to have a consequence on on the people presiding over the election, then you're not going to participate.
And
they,
he has
they
said
didn't
so
participate.
also this time round.
Right.
Right.
They didn't participate. That's why I think in this particular petition this time round, Raila Odinga is doing this ahead of the courts. He's trying to tell them that if you are considering that this election at any point it's below what we can score as credible, fair, transparent, verifiable, then also
let's not
say something on the chairman.
Okay.
That's it. So I feel, from where I sit, of course, informed by the decision of the court in 2017, I feel the court should have stepped a bit further.
Okay.
And in fact went ahead to now probe Chebukati and the actual system on what exactly was going on. At the same time, remember there was a resignation of
Roselyn Akombe.
Roselyn Akombe, an IEBC commissioner then.
Right.
The courts didn't go to follow through. There wasn't even a commission set up to see what exactly was going on then. There was also, of course, the killing, and this is quite unfortunate when we lose Kenyans who give themselves to prop democracy in a country that is still growing as ours, of the ICT, the ICT boss.
Right.
Then
Msando. Right. And
these
we also
these are
seen
some
that
of the
also
places where we should have questioned Chebukati or the system itself. He should have given us answers then. And he owes us answers now as Kenyans.
Right. He owes us answers. A man under siege, as Roselyn Akombe put it back in 2017. And we're also seeing a split in the IEBC this time round as we head towards the decision-making process by the Supreme Court. You can get all these stories. They're spread out in the first pages, and the first few pages of the Standard and also the Daily Nation. But maybe before we go further, a split IEBC, is that really independent? Every single time, 2017 resignation, this time right in the middle, 4 commissioners on this side, 3 commissioners on the other. Is the IEBC losing credibility? In 2027, we might need to have a different kind of commission to take over the elections.
It might help to know that Wafula Chebukati will be retiring in November.
Okay.
Right? At the same time, having the IEBC split 4-3, I think this is why it's a commission in itself and not just one person running an election the way they want to.
Okay.
Because decisions have to be made and the commission has to take responsibility. So in a case where we have a majority disagreeing with what we'd call a minority in a group of 7, of course, I consider that, of course, there's a split and consensus would have shifted with the majority. Yet again, at the same time, I'm not saying that Wafula Chebukati shouldn't have announced the results. It's his job, and he doesn't share that with anyone else to declare the president-elect of the country.
Okay, so that's where we stand right about now. Give us your thoughts on social media. We'll be looking at them. Let's get into the Kenya Kwanza team just for a moment, right? So they are now in celebratory mood, of course, having won most seats in the Senate. They currently are having the most seats in Parliament after a couple of defections already, even before the swearing in of the members of Parliament. Azimio leader Raila Odinga came out to say that international communities should be staying away from election results and also commenting on anything regards the process before Supreme Court makes its final decision. We've seen the UK High Commission coming out on Twitter to also say that they are not partial in any way, and maybe remarks or congratulating William Ruto as president-elect right now as it stands was just, just being a part of the country and not in any way leaning towards a certain political divide. A question now is, Odundo, do you see a dangerous situation in which if we are legitimizing deputy president or president-elect, I don't know which one I should be using at the moment, Deputy President William Ruto's win, or currently as president-elect, if we having a legitimization process where international communities are congratulating him, local communities, people are changing sides, and then we have a situation where the Supreme Court maybe overturns the decision. Are we setting up a dangerous stage?
It's not a dangerous stage at all. Neither is it a dangerous precedent. It's something that has happened before. It's something that's happening now, and it's something that will continue to happen. For countries, diplomacy dictates that you make relationships early, right? When a country needs you, that's when you show up. When you have a leader, that's when you show up for the country, because the presidency in itself is meant to be a uniting factor for the country. So when we have a declared winner to a presidential election, before it's petitioned, that stands to be the president-elect. He occupies an office. He's given
Office
staff.
of the president-elect.
Office of the president-elect. He's given a certificate. He's the voice of the people, right?
Okay.
The numbers spoke for themselves. But now, in a case where we have a petition, then again, we should give the same responsibility to the international partners, friends, what they want to call themselves. We should give them an opportunity to also stand out, as the UK High Commissioner did, to say that there is a petition in court and we are not taking any sides. What the Kenyan people decide through the apex court or through the ballot, that is what we'll go by.
Okay.
If today you're elected, they'll congratulate you, Richard.
Okay.
That's the whole point of having an
If
election.
tomorrow I'm
and having a
fired,
presidency.
well and good.
Yeah,
Then next person, congratulations.
Sorry, and congratulations to the next person.
All right, so it is all right if you want to congratulate DP Ruto for that current position of president-elect.
In dispute.
Yes,
In
make
dispute.
sure that you do that. Raila's allies are risking being in the cold after Azimio lost elections. I feel like it's too early to say they're in the cold, don't you think? Eugene Wamalwa, Peter Munyi, Mutahi Kagwe, Fred Matiang'i, Charity Ngilu, some of the heavyweights who are behind Raila Odinga. And now, if, in case it doesn't go his way, looks like they're out in the cold.
I think the people you've mentioned are still leaders in office, cabinet secretaries, of course, outgoing governors, outgoing members of parliament, outgoing and so on and so forth. I think the cold starts from the 25th of this month. That's on Thursday when we'll be having the governors being inaugurated, the new governors now. It's a risk, of course. The issues before the courts, it could go either way. We still don't know what's in those documents, and we don't want to go into evidence because that's something that the court still hasn't determined, whether some of this can be published or even spoken out in the media per se. So it's a risk. There's also a risk of Kenya Kwanza leaders being in the court.
Oh yeah, right. If
but they've been for long, you know.
Yeah, they're all right. So they're used to the cold.
Yeah, there's no deputy president who's been in opposition while deputy at the same time. So
all right.
There's
So
one foot in the cold and one in the warm.
We'll make sure we know who's in the cold. But as you had said earlier on, Moses Kuria is definitely out in the cold as of now. Let's see how his petition goes. The cartoon here on the Standard, I'm inviting you to my inauguration ceremony. I was trying to
you tried having me understand.
Yeah, what does this mean? DP Ruto there with, is that a machete or?
I think there's the sword of power. I don't know
Oh,
what it's
right.
called. Right.
Oh, he's in full armor for the commander-in-chief.
Full military regalia. And this is a ceremonial outfit. One, we have to mention that. And then two, it's a symbol of power. I don't know why Gado went ahead of himself to have DP Ruto in this.
Okay. Maybe they know something. I think I haven't completely understood this.
There's a cartoonist who is in... Is he a cartoonist or is this somebody?
Probably a speechwriter. What do you think?
I don't know. But I'd go with this is my opinion. This probably is Gado, right? And this probably is, of course, this is the deputy president.
Okay.
The president-elect, William Ruto, right? And Gado is in confusion whether or not to go ahead and make an official portrait or not, because there's still a lot of doubt. And even there's a miniature person normally under there. He's also just questioning exactly what is going on here.
So this is my interpretation, though. I feel like this is DP Ruto preparing for his swearing-in ceremony, and he's dictating his speech to his speechwriter.
Could be, probably.
Yeah,
probably.
What do you think?
Probably.
Yeah. So he's kind of confused because they're writing the speech, but
and
the
we still don't have it.
There's a petition in court. There's a petition in court. So I'd love to know your interpretation. Check out the Standard there on page 18. Up there also, there's Mti inatingizika pale Roots Party. The roots are not firmly attached to the ground.
I don't know what Justina Omai has been smoking lately.
Are you sure you don't know?
Some Wajakoya.
Or maybe...
some Wajakoya. No Wajakoya is reacting.
She did nothing wrong, apparently, but according to Professor George Jakoya, he says that his running mate, Justina Omai, has made utterances that cannot be substantiated and which are against the party's manifesto.
But she has to be careful because, you know, some of these, especially with the political parties act and so on, whipping is allowed within the party in terms of if you're going rogue, there's disciplinary, and so on and so forth. So she's made several utterances that I think were actually contravening the stand of the party leader and the party itself. So.
All right. So that is what is happening in terms of elections so far, the third week in since the August 9th elections. And
the
now
fat lady is still singing, yeah?
Yeah, we're still... Sorry?
The fat lady is still singing.
Yeah, the fat lady is singing. If you saw the happenings at Bomas, the fat lady was singing at the corner, and there was war. There was war on one side. So yeah,
that choir had
the fat lady is in the second verse. We are still waiting on her to finish to sing so that we know who is the president. Was it stolen? That is a big question on the Daily Nation and also spread out in the Standard. Make sure you take a look at that and also tell us what you think. I think that's as much as politics.
I think that's everything to do
with politics.
Most coverage on the Daily.
Right. Also, one thing here, the Business Daily, of course, they have to focus on numbers. One of the most expensive elections in the world, 44 billion Kenyan shillings, the most expensive so far in the region, that is in Africa. What do you think? Are we spending the money on the right things?
Ideally, Kenya has not been the best for that. We haven't been the best for that. It's unfortunate that we can actually share a laugh over this because we know what kind of a sorry state we are in currently.
Right.
I think one of the biggest lessons and one of the takeaways you're going to have from this, plus even noted before by various people giving reports on this election, is that we really need to address the cost of elections in the country. It doesn't have to cost this much, and Kenyans don't have to pay this much to go to a ballot, have it disputed or mismanaged specifically.
So which means if we go for a rerun, that's another an additional cost, which means we are probably going to be the most expensive right there.
Probably in the world, you know, and
probably,
we are topping first world countries that even have greater GDPs than ourselves, and it's just a situation that is quite unfortunate, especially when you have it in mind that all these elections go petitioned.
Right.
So we still don't have free, fair, and credible, and we are paying so much for it. They should give the taxpayer some sorts of respect, decency, and even just accountability of sorts. I really wish there is.
So the IBC will be having to create new ballot papers, print afresh, employ workers, deploy election technology, which is also an issue which has been raised there in some of those petitions, how the technology was penetrated by hackers. We've seen a whistleblower there also saying that they are aware and their whistle is blowing now.
Yeah, they are blowing a whistle to a whistleblower, John Gidongo, the former corruption. So
it's a whistleblower against another whistleblower.
Yeah.
And you can get to read on the Business Daily, page 13, the hidden costs that make Kenya's polls money guzzlers. So that is the big story there. I think the only relief which I have seen so far is on HELB. Yeah?
Is there anything fun on the papers? Yeah.
Yeah, HELB. That's what I was hunting for. At least, finally, something. So the High Court has stopped the HELB, or the Higher Education Loan Board, from imposing interest penalties or fines which are exceeding the principal amount, which is terming it unconstitutional. So, kama uko nje na hujalipa HELB, you can know that you have a relief here now. You won't be paying those exorbitant rates in terms of interest, fines, and penalties. Odundo?
Right. IEBC, no, sorry. We're in the season.
You're still in IEBC.
We're still in the season. So, HELB generally, the High Court in Nairobi dealt a blow to HELB following a declaration that, of course, it's not entitled to recover an amount exceeding the principal advanced to a beneficiary. So if we give you 5,000 shillings, we can't take more than 10,000 shillings from you. I think at some point it was less of the recovery and more of the punishment, which it shouldn't be.
Right. So we need more of that. I'm sure that this is just the first step. Maybe penalties not going past the principal rate, but also we need to get to a situation where HELB becomes, and it's a discussion which began a long time ago, when you were still here.
Right, and in 2020, and I'm just saying this now, that through its Twitter handle, HELB threatened to publish the names and photos in leading newspapers of defaulters since 1975, and issued. This is crazy.
This is crazy.
I think this is wrong.
Of the highest order.
Yeah, this is wrong, especially considering that this is money that we put into students in institutions of higher learning. These are the same people who are coming back to pay the taxes from which HELB gets money. Right?
To run
the HELB itself.
It's all a cycle.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So maybe HELB should be, we've had a conversation here before that we should move HELB from being a loan to being a grant.
That might not be sustainable, but at the level with which we do it for our political figures, it could be a proper consideration, probably better use for my money than than on a V8.
Right.
Than on a V8.
Probably. So as is norm, we're going to have you read, unless, of course, you have anything else that we might have brushed over. I see Weta the Fifth is making a comeback there on the Standard, saying he's going to be the third most powerful man in the land.
Man, Wetangula even declared they have a big job for Uhuru Kenyatta.
I want to get to a situation where I have the guts to be saying some of these things, or the authority to say some of these things to former presidents, that you have a job for them.
The weather might be wet, but they're not wetter, right?
That's
but
a
it's
good
not
one.
wetter.
Yeah, I got that. The quote at the back of the Business Daily, last words from Vincent Odundo.
Oh, good. This is coming from Aristotle, a Greek philosopher and polymath. Last word, it's not enough to win a war, it's more important to organize the peace. It's not enough to win a war, it's more important to organize the peace, Richard.
Okay. I feel like that is Raila Odinga more than Aristotle, but he's okay. He feels very Raila.
Yeah, he'll win the war and organize the peace. Probably.
All right, that's it on the newspaper review this morning. If you have any comments, please do tell us on all the social media platforms. I am at Richard_Kenye. I am glad to have had Vincent. Vincent, do you have anything to say before I outro you out?
No, quite. Just thanks so much for having me. And of course, props to your producer, Ryan Ngure.
Of course, for yanking you out of your morning routine to come through and speak to us here on the newspaper review. We'll be right back on Biashara Tuesday. Make sure you're giving me your comments and I will see them. Do you have a Twitter handle, Vincent?
At Vince Odundo across social media or wherever you.
All right, at Vince Odundo, wherever you go. At Richard_Kenye. I'll be right back. All right, here I have a tweet from Mwalimu Njoya. For those who are on Twitter are very aware of one Mwalimu Wandia Njoya. I'm tired of elections. I think it's unfair to work us into a hype to put a mere tick in a box. And then people start debating on technical things which we voters can't say much about. And then the technical debate is so emotional, and yet math in the classroom was never this way. I think it says a lot about our social life in Kenya. No philosophy, a crippled infrastructure for arts, sports, and work leaves us with nothing else but to be invested in politics and politicians and state power games. It's like a toxic soap opera, and there's nothing we can do to change it. Think about that as we close this show on Biashara Tuesday. I'm glad that you were able to tune in from the morning. Remember, this goes to you every single day of the week. From Monday to Friday, we have KUTV Rise Today live from KUTV studios. Yesterday, you had Art and Culture Monday with Karen Blessing. Today, Biashara Tuesday here. Tomorrow, Nina Gikunda is coming for WCW. And on Thursday, we have Ojwang Mariam on the Throwback Show. Friday, you get entertainment on Team Weekendi with Emperor Shaker as the captain there, giving you awesome entertainment before we come back again to another full circle on KUTV Rise Today. I'm glad for all the feedback that I've seen here on social media. Justina Kathambi following, thank you very much. Ngugi wa Murishu mwenyewe, good morning. Unasema Ndaragwa tuko pamoja. You're watching from Murishu Ndaragwa. I am really glad that you are able to tune in to the show. Chenwatch, watching us all the way from Isiolo. Asante sana for always tuning in. Matolo Vitolo on Twitter also tuning in to the show. Not forgetting Ojwang Mariam, who's always, of course, checking out what we are doing. The Nanyuki Billionaire, thank you on Twitter for always interacting with us. Jesus, and I watch from Kisii. Asante sana for tuning in to the show. We've had a very wholesome conversation on the current situation in the country. The Supreme Court receiving 9 petitions, that is regarding the presidential results which were announced by IEBC chairperson Wafula Chebukati. A lot of issues which are being raised in the petitions. Make sure you have a look at the dailies. We've gone through them with Vincent Odundo, just taking a look at the critical points in which, or the ones which are going to determine the direction that the Supreme Court is going to take in the next few weeks. Remember, this is also business. We did discuss matters of literature and business. How can authors make money? We spoke to Cynthia Abdallah all the way from Venezuela and some of the ventures she's been able to get herself into in terms of publication of poetry and also some of the films which she has made. Earlier on, I got this amazing piece which I've had the privilege to name called Marjorie, from Marjorie, who's the founder of Jada Jewelry. There you can check out some of the jewelry she's doing involving local craftsmen and also creating a culture of Afro-Bohemianism, individuals who are not afraid to express who they are. And she's using jewelry to do that. Check out her business and some of the amazing work that she's done. If you have anything out there that you want us to have a look at, a business that you're running, a technology that is interesting to you that you'd like us to highlight here on the show, ensure you reach out to us at KUTV_Kenya. But you can get in touch with me on my personal handles, as I always say, at Richard_OKENYE. Until next week on Tuesday, if you want to have breakfast in bed, sleep in the kitchen.
Kwa mitandao kila siku ni story new, bando zako zikiisha utapitwa uspori new. Kapedi nko chini ya waba, leo dreadi zinafungwa juu, naishi mali juu kwa anga, so daily na enjoy the view. Taka kuona road